From the moment I opened my eyes, I could see what others could not. The flow of energy, the rhythm of life itself. My grandfather once asked me what I was born to do. I still don't have that answer. But when cursed spirits threaten those I care for, I will not hesitate.
The rain fell in curtains across Tokyo's darkened streets, each droplet visible as crystalline fragments through eyes that saw the world differently than anyone else's. Yuji Itadori stood motionless in the downpour, his pink hair plastered to his forehead, revealing the distinctive mark that had adorned his skin since birth, a pattern that resembled flames dancing across his temple. To anyone watching, he appeared to be a 16-year-old student caught in unfortunate weather. But those who could perceive cursed energy would have noticed something extraordinary: the complete absence of malice, bloodlust, or negative emotion emanating from his form. Where others leaked cursed energy through emotional turbulence, Yuji existed in perfect tranquility, a void of intent that made him nearly invisible to cursed senses. His eyes, amber like autumn leaves, saw through the rain itself. The transparent world revealed everything: the muscular contractions of a cat preparing to leap 3 buildings away, the flow of cursed energy through a grade 4 curse hiding in the alley shadows, the cellular structure of the asphalt beneath his feet beginning to crack from water damage. He had been born with this sight, and to him, it was simply how the world existed. "Itadori-kun," a voice called through the rain. Yuji turned, his movements economical and precise. A man in a black uniform stood 10 meters away, Kiyotaka Ijichi, his perpetually nervous expression amplified by the storm. Behind him, the sleek black vehicle that had been following Yuji for the past 3 days idled with its headlights cutting through the darkness. "You've been requested to come to Tokyo Jujutsu High," Ijichi said, pushing his glasses up nervously. "Gojo-san would like to speak with you personally." Yuji's expression remained gentle, though a melancholic understanding touched his features. He had expected this conversation since his grandfather's death 1 week prior. The incident at the hospital, when a special grade curse had manifested during his grandfather's final moments and Yuji had eliminated it without conscious thought, had surely drawn attention. "I understand," Yuji said softly, his voice carrying a formal politeness that seemed incongruous with his age. "However, I must respectfully ask, is this a request or a summoning?" Ijichi swallowed hard. There was something about this teenager that set him on edge. Not fear, but rather the unsettling sensation of standing before someone whose presence suggested depths far beyond his years. Gojo-san described it as an invitation. He emphasized that you're not in any trouble. Quite the opposite, actually. Yuji nodded slowly. "Then I will accept this invitation. Please lead the way." As they walked to the vehicle, Ijichi couldn't help but notice how the rain seemed to avoid Yuji's vital areas, how each step placed him exactly where the ground was most stable, how his breathing followed a pattern that seemed almost impossibly controlled. The boy moved through the world with a fluidity that suggested he saw paths invisible to everyone else. And indeed, he did. Tokyo Jujutsu High sat atop a hill overlooking the city, protected by barriers that shimmered in Yuji's transparent world vision, like gossamer threads of concentrated cursed energy. The campus grounds were immaculate, despite the rain, and as Yuji stepped from the vehicle, he could perceive the intricate network of protective techniques woven through every building and pathway. Waiting beneath the covered entrance stood a man whose cursed energy signature was unlike anything Yuji had encountered. Vast, overwhelming, yet perfectly controlled. Satoru Gojo stood with his hands in his pockets, his signature blindfold covering his eyes, though Yuji's transparent world revealed the 6 eyes beneath, equally capable of perceiving what others could not. "So, you're Yuji Itadori," Gojo said, his tone carrying amusement. The boy who eliminated a special grade curse with his bare hands and a wooden practice sword. Yuji bowed respectfully. "Gojo-san, thank you for inviting me. Though I must clarify, I did not eliminate the curse with my bare hands. I used my grandfather's katana from the dojo." Gojo's grin widened. "Ah, yes, the katana you somehow imbued with cursed energy despite having no formal training. The weapon that cut through a special grade's defenses like they were paper. That katana. Yes, Yuji confirmed simply without pride or false modesty. That one. For a moment, the two stood in silence, and to anyone observing through cursed energy perception, the scene would have appeared surreal. Gojo's immense presence dominated the space like a sun. Bright, overwhelming, impossible to ignore. Yet beside him, Yuji existed as a perfect void, an absence that somehow commanded equal attention through its very negation of presence. I can't sense any cursed energy from you, Gojo said, his tone shifting to genuine curiosity. No intent, no emotion, no bloodlust. It's like standing next to an empty space. But when I use my 6 eyes, he paused, tilting his head, I see something extraordinary. Cursed energy refined to such perfection that it doesn't leak even a drop. Control so absolute that you might as well not exist to normal sensory perception. I apologize if this causes confusion, Yuji said gently. I have always existed in this state. It is natural to me. Gojo laughed, the sound echoing across the campus. Don't apologize. Do you have any idea how rare this is? Most sorcerers spend their entire lives trying to achieve a fraction of that control. He stepped closer, studying Yuji with undisguised interest. Those eyes of yours, they're not normal either, are they? I see the world as it is, Yuji replied, his amber eyes meeting Gojo's blindfolded gaze. The structure of things, the flow of energy, the connections between cause and effect, I have always seen this way. The transparent world, Gojo murmured, recognition flickering across his features. I've read about it in ancient texts, a state of perception where the user can see through everything, muscle contractions, energy flow, structural weaknesses, combined with your emotionless state and perfect cursed energy control. He grinned wider. Yuji Itadori, I think you and I are going to get along wonderfully. I am honored by your words, Yuji said with another small bow. However, I must ask, why have you brought me here? I have lived my entire life as a normal person. My grandfather's dojo taught me discipline and technique, but I have no formal connection to the world of jujutsu sorcery. Gojo's expression turned serious, though his smile remained. That curse that appeared when your grandfather died, it didn't manifest randomly. Special grade curses are attracted to significant concentrations of cursed energy or emotional turmoil. Your grandfather's death provided the emotional catalyst, but your presence. He gestured at Yuji. Your presence is what drew it, because despite your perfect control, the raw amount of cursed energy you possess is astronomical. Yuji absorbed this information with quiet contemplation. I see. And you believe I should become a jujutsu sorcerer? I believe you already are one, Gojo corrected. The question is whether you'll develop your abilities formally or continue wandering through life accidentally, eliminating curses whenever they cross your path. And trust me, they will continue to cross your path. Your grandfather's dying wish, according to Ijichi's report, was for you to help people, to use your strength to protect others. The words struck deep, and for the first time, emotion flickered across Yuji's features, a profound sadness mixed with determination. My grandfather told me many things in his final moments. He said I had been gifted with power beyond measure, and that such power carried responsibility. He asked me to ensure no one would die alone, to use my strength to give people proper deaths surrounded by loved ones. Then the path is clear, Gojo said. Become a jujutsu sorcerer. Learn to use your abilities to their fullest potential, and in doing so, fulfill your grandfather's wish. He extended his hand. Rat, what do you say? Yuji looked at the offered hand, then at the campus around them, perceiving through his transparent world the students training in distant buildings, the cursed tools stored in armories, the weight of tradition and purpose that permeated every stone. He thought of his grandfather's final smile, of the curse he had eliminated through pure instinct, of the techniques his body knew without conscious learning. He took Gojo's hand, his grip firm and steady. I accept. Please teach me how to properly protect others. Gojo's grin returned in full force. Oh, I don't think you'll need much teaching, but I'm looking forward to seeing what happens when someone with your natural abilities receives formal training. He released Yuji's hand and turned toward the main building. Come on, let me introduce you to your new classmates. Fair warning, they're a unique bunch, but I think you'll fit right in. As they walked through the rain-soaked campus, Yuji's transparent world continued mapping every detail of his surroundings. He saw the barriers designed to keep curses out, the hidden chambers beneath certain buildings, the way cursed energy flowed through the very foundations of Jujutsu High like blood through veins. This place had stood for hundreds of years, a bastion against the darkness that plagued humanity, and now he would become part of its legacy. The first person Yuji met was not in a classroom or during a formal introduction, but rather in the aftermath of chaos. A low-level curse had breached the outer barriers, a minor incident by most standards, likely a grade 3 at most. Gojo had casually mentioned it to Yuji as they walked, explaining that first-year students often handled such intrusions as practical training. They had been en route to the dormitories when the commotion began. Through his transparent world, Yuji perceived the battle before they arrived. 2 students engaged with the curse in a courtyard 50 meters ahead. One was a girl with short orange hair wielding a hammer and nails, her cursed energy flowing into her weapons with practiced efficiency. The other was a boy with dark hair styled upward, his cursed energy manifesting in the form of 2 massive divine dogs, one white, one black, that harried the curse from opposite sides. The curse itself resembled a grotesque amalgamation of spider and human, 8 legs supporting a torso covered in eyes that wept black tears. It was cornered but not defeated, lashing out with venomous strikes that the students barely evaded. "Ah, perfect timing," Gojo said cheerfully. "Yuji, meet your classmates, Nobara Kugisaki and Megumi Fushiguro. They're first years like you'll be." He raised his voice. "Hey, I brought you some help." Nobara spared them a glance, her expression fierce. "We don't need help with this small fry. Just give us another minute." But Megumi's eyes widened as he looked at Yuji, and through the transparent world, Yuji saw the other boy's muscles tense with something like recognition, or perhaps instinctive wariness. Megumi's cursed energy flickered, responding to what? Not to Yuji's presence, since Yuji projected none. Perhaps to his absence. The curse chose that moment to strike, one of its legs shooting toward Nobara with lethal speed while she was distracted. Yuji moved. To the observers, he seemed to simply appear between Nobara and the attack, his hand raised. But in the transparent world, he had seen the curse's muscle contractions a full second before it struck, had calculated the trajectory, speed, and force, had moved along the most efficient path through space. His body responded with movements ingrained so deeply they transcended muscle memory. They were written into his very existence. The curse's leg met his palm and stopped completely, as if striking a wall of steel. Cursed energy flowed through Yuji's arm in a pattern that resembled flowing water or dancing flames, reinforcing his physical structure beyond human limitations. The curse shrieked, trying to pull back, but Yuji's grip was absolute. "Please forgive me," Yuji said softly, his voice carrying melancholic regret. "You were born from humanity's fear and negativity. Your existence itself is suffering. Allow me to grant you peace." His other hand moved to his side as if drawing a sword that wasn't there, but cursed energy manifested along that motion, taking the shape of a blade composed entirely of concentrated power. The energy shifted from its natural state to something else, something that burned crimson like sunset, like fire made solid, like the wrath of the sun given form. "Dance of the Fire God," Yuji whispered, using the name his body knew without understanding why. "Solar heat haze." The technique manifested as a strike so swift it seemed to exist in multiple places simultaneously, creating afterimages that confused the eye. But it was a single perfect cut, executed with such precision that the curse's body separated cleanly into dissolving fragments before it could even register death. The cursed energy blade moved in a circular slash that generated intense heat, the very air shimmering around its path. The curse evaporated, its essence scattered too thoroughly to ever reform. Silence fell across the courtyard. Nobara stared, her hammer lowered. "What the hell was that?" Megumi dismissed his divine dogs, his dark eyes fixed on Yuji with an intensity that suggested he was trying to solve an impossible puzzle. "That technique, I've never seen cursed energy manipulated like that. It moved like breathing, completely natural, but the control required should be impossible without years of training." Yuji turned to them, and both students unconsciously stepped back, not from fear, but from the sheer presence or lack thereof that he commanded. Looking at him felt like staring into a still pond that reflected everything but revealed nothing of its own depths. I apologize for interfering, Yuji said with a respectful bow. Gojo-san suggested I help, but I should have allowed you to finish your battle. Please forgive my rudeness. Are you serious right now? Nobara found her voice, though it carried disbelief. You just obliterated a grade 3 curse with one hit, and you're apologizing? The curse was suffering, Yuji replied simply. I merely ended that suffering as quickly as possible. Any decent person would have done the same. Any decent person? Megumi repeated quietly. You're not a normal Jujutsu sorcerer, are you? Before Yuji could respond, Gojo clapped his hands together. Excellent question, Megumi. And the answer is, I have no idea. Isn't that exciting? He gestured at Yuji like presenting a prize. This is Yuji Itadori, your new classmate. As of today, he's officially enrolling as a first-year student. He has zero formal training, but just eliminated a curse with a technique he apparently invented on the spot. His cursed energy control is perfect. He exists in a constant state of emotional tranquility, and he has eyes that can see through literally everything. That's a lot to unpack. Nobara said, eyeing Yuji warily. So what, you're some kind of natural-born genius? I would not describe myself in such terms, Yuji said gently. I have simply been fortunate to be born with certain abilities. These gifts carry responsibility, not pride. Megumi's expression shifted subtly, still guarded but with a hint of respect. Your stance when you attacked, it wasn't standard jutsu combat form. Where did you learn it? My grandfather maintained a dojo, Yuji explained. He taught traditional sword techniques, though I have adapted them to circumstances. He glanced at his hand where the cursed energy blade had manifested. I did not know cursed energy could take solid form until this moment. My body simply moved as it knew it should. Your body just knew, Megumi murmured. Right, Gojo laughed. See, isn't he fascinating? Anyway, Yuji, these two will be your teammates for most missions. Nobara Kugisaki, she uses cursed energy through her hammer and nails, specializing in long-range attacks and technique reversal. Megumi Fushiguro, he inherited the 10 Shadows technique, allowing him to summon Shikigami from shadows. Both are incredibly talented, though. He grinned. I think you might be playing in a different league entirely. Please don't praise me so highly, Yuji said, genuine discomfort flickering across his features. I am simply someone trying to help others. Kugisaki-san and Fushiguro-san both demonstrated excellent teamwork and combat awareness. I could see the coordination in their movements, the trust in their positioning. That kind of partnership requires time and effort to develop. I have much to learn from both of them. Nobara blinked, taken aback by the sincere humility. Well, at least you're not arrogant about it. I guess we can work with that. Megumi nodded slowly. If we're going to be teammates, I need to understand your abilities better. That technique you used, can you explain it? Yuji considered the question carefully, his transparent world observing Megumi's genuine curiosity and tactical mindset. I cannot explain it in terms you would find satisfactory, he admitted. When I move, my body follows patterns that feel natural to me. The cursed energy flows through specific pathways, creating heat and force. The technique I used, Solar Heat Haze, generates multiple strikes so rapidly they appear simultaneous, while the intense heat prevents cursed spirit regeneration. Multiple strikes appearing as one, Megumi murmured, his tactical mind clearly working. And you said there are other techniques like this? 13 forms total, Yuji said, then paused, surprised by his own certainty. Yes, 13 distinct techniques, each serving different purposes. I have not used them all consciously, but I know they exist within me. Gojo's grin somehow widened further. 13 original techniques based on some kind of internal martial arts system that you just happen to know innately. Megumi, Nobara, meet your new classmate, who might be one of the most naturally gifted sorcerers I've ever encountered. One of? Nobara challenged. Well, I am the strongest, Gojo said cheerfully. But Yuji here? He looked at the boy with genuine interest. I think with proper guidance, he might reach heights comparable to mine. Different specialties, but equal mastery. The weight of those words settled over the courtyard. For Gojo Satoru to acknowledge anyone as potentially equal was unprecedented. He was, after all, the man who had single-handedly maintained the balance of power in the Jujutsu world through sheer overwhelming strength. But Yuji's expression remained gentle and melancholic. Strength without purpose is meaningless, he said softly. I do not seek to become powerful for power's sake. I simply wish to use what I have been given to help others, to prevent suffering where I can. Megumi studied him for a long moment. That's admirable, he finally said. Most people who gain power want to use it for themselves. Power is a burden, Yuji replied. Those who bear it must do so with care and responsibility. Otherwise, that power becomes a curse in itself. Wise words, Gojo said, his tone suggesting he was genuinely pleased. All right, I think that's enough philosophy for one day. Yuji, let's get you settled into your dorm room. Tomorrow, we'll do a proper assessment of your abilities. I'm particularly curious to see these 13 techniques of yours in action. As they walked toward the dormitories, with Megumi and Nobara trailing behind, still processing what they had witnessed, Yuji's transparent world continued cataloging information. He saw the way Megumi's shadows flickered with cursed energy even when not actively summoning Shikigami, suggesting the technique was semi-permanent. He saw how Nobara's cursed energy naturally gravitated toward her fingertips, indicating her specialization in precision manipulation. He saw Gojo's impossible reserves of cursed energy circulating through the six eyes in patterns that defied conventional understanding. And he wondered, not for the first time, why he had been born with abilities that set him apart, why his eyes saw what others could not, why his body knew techniques that should not exist in this world. Why his very existence seemed to operate on different rules than everyone around him. His grandfather's final words echoed in his mind. You are special, Yuji. More special than you know. Use that specialness to help people. Promise me. He had made that promise. And now, in this world of curses and sorcerers, he would fulfill it, no matter what it cost him. Dawn broke over Tokyo Jujutsu High in shades of crimson and gold, the sunrise painting the campus in colors that reminded Yuji of the cursed energy blade he had manifested the previous day. He stood in the center of the training grounds, hands at his sides, breathing in the slow, controlled rhythm that came as naturally as heartbeat. Gojo sat on the wooden veranda overlooking the grounds, legs crossed casually. Megumi and Nobara flanked him, both having arrived early to witness whatever was about to unfold. The atmosphere carried anticipation, the feeling before something significant occurs. All right, Yuji, Gojo called out. Show me what you can really do. Don't hold back, and before you say you don't want to damage the training grounds, he gestured and barriers shimmered into existence around the area. I've reinforced everything. You literally cannot break these barriers, so go wild. Yuji bowed respectfully. I understand. However, I must clarify that I do not know how to go wild, as you put it. I will simply demonstrate the techniques as they come to me. Good enough, Gojo said. Start with your basic cursed energy manipulation. Show me how you reinforce your body. Yuji closed his eyes, though it made no difference to his transparent world vision. Cursed energy began flowing through his body in patterns that resembled breathing. Inhale, energy flows inward, strengthening bone and muscle. Exhale, energy flows outward, creating a protective layer. But unlike normal sorcerers whose energy leaked and fluctuated, Yuji's remained perfectly contained, not a single particle wasted. Incredible, Megumi murmured, watching through his own cursed energy perception. It's like watching water flow through channels, completely smooth, no turbulence, no waste. The ground beneath Yuji's feet cracked, not from explosive force, but from the sheer density of cursed energy concentrated in his body. When he opened his eyes, they glowed faintly with power. Physical reinforcement complete, Yuji said calmly. This is my baseline state during combat. Baseline, Nobara repeated flatly. Your baseline is cracking stone just by standing there. Now show me your speed, Gojo instructed. Yuji vanished. To normalize, he simply ceased to exist in one location and appeared in another 50 meters away. But those who could perceive cursed energy saw something different. A continuous trail of movement so fast it appeared instantaneous, the air itself distorting from the speed of his passage. He appeared at various points around the training ground, each movement leaving after-images that faded slowly. The pattern of his movement was not random, but deliberate, tracing out what might have been a technique or kata, each position flowing seamlessly into the next. When he stopped, returning to his original position, he wasn't even breathing heavily. Speed assessment complete, he said. I can perceive and react to movements faster than normal human vision can process. My transparent world allows me to predict trajectories before they occur, and my body can respond accordingly. Now we're getting somewhere, Gojo said, leaning forward with interest. Show me those techniques, the 13 forms you mentioned. Start with something simple. Yuji extended his hand and cursed energy manifested as a sword, not the blade-like structure from yesterday, but a longer, more refined weapon that burned with red-tinged flames. The cursed energy had shifted states, taking on properties of heat and light that made the air shimmer. Dance of the Fire God, he said quietly. First form, unknowing fire. He moved forward in a thrust, the cursed energy blade extending as he stepped. But it was not a simple straight attack. The blade curved and twisted mid-thrust, creating an unpredictable strike pattern that would be nearly impossible to defend against. The technique combined speed, misdirection, and overwhelming power, all compressed into a single flowing motion. The blade struck Gojo's barrier, and even that reinforced structure rippled from the impact, heat washing across the training ground in waves. The first form is designed for speed and surprise, Yuji explained, returning to his starting position. It strikes before the opponent can perceive the attack has begun. Show me another, Gojo commanded, his 6 eyes analyzing every detail. Second form, clear blue sky. This time, Yuji's blade swept in a circular motion, creating a wheel of crimson cursed energy that spun outward from his position. The technique was designed for area denial, the rotating strike impossible to approach from any angle. The barrier lit up wherever the energy wheel touched it, showing the tremendous force distributed across its entire surface. Third form, Raging Sun. 2 horizontal slashes executed in rapid succession, the cursed energy blades leaving burning trails through the air. The technique demonstrated overwhelming offensive power, each strike capable of cutting through defenses through sheer force. Fourth form, Burning Bones Summer Sun. A circular slash that generated even more intense heat than the previous forms, the cursed energy taking on a deeper red color. Yuji's movements flowed like water, each technique transitioning seamlessly into the next, his body moving through forms that seemed choreographed by the universe itself. Fifth form, Setting Sun Transformation. The blade twisted mid-strike, changing direction impossibly, demonstrating the adaptability of the technique. It could adjust to unexpected defenses or movements, making it nearly impossible to predict or counter. Nobara watched with growing disbelief. How many of these does he have? 13, Megumi answered, his eyes never leaving Yuji's form. He said 13 total. Sixth form, Solar Heat Haze. The technique from yesterday, multiple strikes appearing as one through sheer speed, the afterimages creating a confusing visual pattern that disguised the true attack. Seventh form, Beneficent Radiance. A graceful spiral slash that combined both offense and defense, the rotating blade creating a barrier while simultaneously striking outward. Yuji's movements had taken on an almost dance-like quality, each technique flowing into the next with perfect rhythm. Eighth form, Sunflower Thrust. A rapid series of thrusts executed with pinpoint precision, each strike targeting a different vital point. Through his transparent world, Yuji demonstrated how the technique could strike multiple weaknesses simultaneously, overwhelming any defense through sheer accuracy. Ninth form, Dragon Sun Halo Head Dance. His body moved in a fluid, flowing motion that resembled a dragon's movement, the cursed energy blade creating a trail of flames that formed a halo pattern. The technique combined speed, power, and unpredictable movement into a single devastating form. 10th form, Fire Wheel. Yuji's blade swept in a vertical circular motion, creating a wheel of flames that could be used offensively or defensively. The technique demonstrated his ability to transition between attack and protection seamlessly. 11th form, Fake Rainbow. High-speed movement combined with a twisting slash, creating illusory afterimages that made it impossible to determine which attack was real. Yuji seemed to exist in multiple places simultaneously, each image equally convincing. 12th form, Flame Dance. A technique of pure offense, 2 consecutive strikes executed with such speed and power that they appeared to create a wall of flames. The cursed energy burned hotter than any previous form, the very air igniting from its passage. Yuji paused, breathing still controlled and steady despite the demonstration of 12 devastating techniques. Sweat beaded on his forehead, not from exhaustion, but from the sheer amount of cursed energy he had channeled. The 13th form, he said quietly, is different from the others. It combines all 12 forms into a continuous attack pattern that does not cease until the opponent is defeated or I am incapacitated. I would prefer not to demonstrate it fully, as I cannot guarantee I could stop once it begins. Gojo stood, his expression serious for the first time since the assessment began. Yuji Itadori, he said formally, what you've just demonstrated is unprecedented. Those aren't just techniques. They're a complete combat system, perfectly integrated with cursed energy manipulation. Each form serves a specific purpose, and together they cover every possible combat scenario. He walked down from the veranda, approaching Yuji directly. Where did these techniques come from? Who taught you? I do not know, Yuji answered honestly. They exist within me as naturally as breathing. When I trained in my grandfather's dojo, my body moved in these patterns. I thought they were simply sword techniques until yesterday, when I discovered I could manifest them through cursed energy. Inherited techniques, Megumi said suddenly. Some jujutsu sorcerers are born with techniques passed down through bloodlines, but this, he shook his head, this is different. These techniques aren't standard jujutsu. They operate on different principles. They're beautiful, Nobara said quietly, then seemed surprised by her own words. I mean, they're terrifying and could definitely kill me in a heartbeat, but there's something elegant about them, like watching a performance rather than a fight. Yuji bowed to her. Thank you for your kind words. However, these techniques exist solely to eliminate curses and protect people. There is no beauty in taking life, even cursed life. Each use carries the weight of that purpose. The melancholic wisdom in his voice silenced any response. Gojo clapped his hands together, breaking the somber moment. Well, now that we've established that Yuji is stupidly talented, let's talk about your role here at Jujutsu High. He gestured for them to gather. Normally, first-year students spend time on basic training, learning curse theory, practicing teamwork, etc. But given Yuji's unique situation, I think we should skip directly to practical application. Meaning? Megumi asked. Meaning you three are going on missions together, starting tomorrow. Real assignments, not just cleaning up minor curses that slip through the barriers. Gojo's grin returned. I want to see how Yuji operates in actual combat situations with teammates. Plus, Megumi and Nobara could use the experience of working with someone who operates on a completely different level. It'll be educational for everyone. What kind of missions? Nobara wanted to know. That depends on what's available, Gojo said. But I'll make sure you get variety. Curse elimination, protective details, investigation work, the full spectrum of jujutsu sorcerer activities. Yuji needs to understand how the system works, and you two need to understand how to fight alongside someone with his abilities. Megumi nodded thoughtfully. That makes sense. We'll need to develop coordination strategies. Yuji's speed and power could leave us behind if we're not careful. I will ensure that does not happen, Yuji said immediately. Teamwork requires synchronization. I will adapt my movements to complement yours, not overshadow them. Please trust me to support you properly. See? Already thinking like a team player, Gojo said approvingly. All right, assessment complete. Yuji, you're officially classified as a Grade 1 sorcerer as of this moment. Silence. Grade 1? Nobara's voice climbed an octave. He just enrolled yesterday and he's already Grade 1? Based on what I've seen, he could probably handle special grade curses, Gojo said casually. But let's not rush things. Grade 1 gives him access to appropriate missions while still maintaining some oversight. We'll see how he develops from there. Megumi was staring at Yuji with an unreadable expression. You realize most sorcerers spend years reaching Grade 1? Some never make it at all? I apologize if this causes discomfort, Yuji said gently. I do not seek rank or recognition. If it would be better for me to start at a lower grade and work upward, I am willing to do so. No, that would be stupid, Nobara said bluntly. If you're that strong, you should be ranked accordingly. I just need a minute to process that I'm going to be on a team with someone who's basically already at the top tier. You are both exceptional in your own right, Yuji said sincerely. Kugisaki-san, your precision with cursed energy manipulation through your tools demonstrates incredible control and creativity. Fushiguro-san, your Ten Shadows technique shows remarkable versatility and tactical awareness. I have much to learn from both of you regarding teamwork and the practical application of jujutsu sorcery in complex situations. The genuine respect in his voice eased some of the tension. Well, at least he's humble about it, Nobara muttered. Humility is necessary when one wields power, Yuji said quietly. Pride and strength leads to arrogance, and arrogance leads to mistakes. My grandfather taught me that the strongest person is not the one who never falls, but the one who rises each time with renewed purpose. Gojo's smile softened slightly. Your grandfather sounds like he was a wise man. He was the wisest person I have ever known, Yuji agreed, a profound sadness touching his features. His death, I was not strong enough to prevent it. Natural causes, yes, but I could not ease his suffering in those final moments. That failure weighs on me. That's not a failure, Megumi said quietly. Death from natural causes isn't something even the strongest sorcerer can prevent. Perhaps, Yuji said, but I should have been able to do something. This power I possess, what good is it if I cannot protect the people most important to me? The raw emotion in those words, contrasting sharply with his usual calm demeanor, struck deep. That's why you're here, Gojo said gently, to learn how to use that power effectively, to develop the skills and knowledge necessary to protect people. Your grandfather wanted you to help others. Now you have the opportunity to do exactly that, on a scale beyond what he could have imagined. Yuji bowed deeply. Thank you, Gojo-san. I will endeavor to honor my grandfather's memory through my actions. Good, Gojo said, his cheerful tone returning. Now, let's get you all some breakfast. I'm sure Yuji worked up an appetite demonstrating all those techniques, and we have a lot of planning to do for your first official mission together. As they walked toward the dining hall, Nobara fell into step beside Yuji. So, if you don't mind me asking, what's with your eyes? They're not normal, right? I mean, the color is pretty, but there's something else going on. They allow me to see the world as it truly is, Yuji explained simply. The transparent world reveals all structures, all flows of energy, all connections between things. It is both a gift and a curse. I can never unsee what I perceive, and sometimes the truth of what I see carries great sadness. Sadness? Megumi prompted. I see how curses are born from human suffering and fear, Yuji said softly. I see the pain in their existence, how they are trapped in cycles of violence, not of their own choosing. Even as I eliminate them, I understand they are victims of humanity's darker nature. That knowledge, it weighs upon me. That's a heavy burden to carry, Nobara said, her earlier antagonism fading into something like understanding. Most sorcerers just see curses as things to be destroyed. You actually empathize with them? All suffering deserves recognition, Yuji replied, whether that suffering belongs to a human or a curse. But recognition does not mean I hesitate to do what must be done. Curses harm people, and people must be protected. The moral complexity of that situation does not change my responsibility. Megumi nodded slowly. You're an idealist, but a practical one. I simply try to do what is right, Yuji said, though I often wonder if I truly understand what right means in such complicated circumstances. They entered the dining hall, where the morning meal had been laid out. As they sat together, 3 first-year students whose lives had just become intertwined, the foundation of their team began to form. Not through grand declarations or formal ceremonies, but through shared understanding and mutual respect. And in the back of Yuji's mind, beneath the calm surface of his selfless state, a question lingered. Why did these techniques exist within him? Why did his body know forms that felt ancient, powerful beyond reason, as if they had been passed down through something more than mere genetic inheritance? He did not know the answer, but he suspected in time he would discover it. The mission briefing came at noon the following day, delivered by Ijichi with his characteristic nervousness, amplified by having to address Yuji directly. The assistant supervisor had quickly learned that while Yuji was unfailingly polite, his presence created a void that made normal social interaction feel surreal. A cursed painting has been reported at a private art gallery in Roppongi, Ijichi explained, spreading documents across the briefing room table. The painting is approximately 300 years old, depicting a scene from a famous battle. Over the past month, 3 people who viewed it have suffered mental breakdowns, and last week, 1 attempted suicide. The gallery owner finally contacted us after security footage showed anomalies around the painting during nighttime hours. Megumi studied the photographs. Grade 2 curse? Probably. Maybe grade 1 if it's been feeding on the fear and despair it generates. Our assessment indicates grade 2, Ijichi confirmed. However, we're sending 3 first-year students as a precaution. This will be Itadori-kun's first official mission, so we want appropriate support. Nobara rolled her eyes. Right, because the guy who obliterated a grade 3 curse with 1 hit needs support against a grade 2. Teamwork is essential regardless of individual strength, Yuji said gently. I am grateful for your assistance, Kugisaki-san, Fushiguro-san. Please guide me in proper mission protocol. This is all new to me. The protocol is pretty simple, Megumi said. We evacuate any civilians, establish a barrier if necessary, identify the curse's nature and weaknesses, then eliminate it. The trick is not causing collateral damage or letting it escape into populated areas. I understand, Yuji nodded. I will follow your lead. Actually, Ijichi interjected nervously, Gojo-san specified that Itadori-kun should take the lead on this mission. He wants to observe how you command a situation. All 3 students turned to look at him. I am not qualified to lead, Yuji said immediately. I have no experience with mission operations or curse elimination protocols. Fushiguro-san has far more expertise in these matters. Gojo-san was very clear, Ijichi insisted. He said, and I quote, let Yuji make the decisions. I want to see how his instincts guide him in real combat scenarios. He'll be observing from a distance but won't intervene unless absolutely necessary. Megumi and Nobara exchanged glances. Well, Nobara said after a moment, at least if things go sideways, we've got Gojo as backup. And honestly, I'm curious to see what Yuji does when he's actually trying. Yesterday was not me trying, Yuji asked, genuinely confused. Yesterday was a demonstration, Megumi clarified. This is an actual mission with real stakes. It's different. I see, Yuji said quietly. Then I will do my best to lead effectively. However, please understand that I value your input highly. If either of you sees a better approach, speak freely. Leadership should not mean ignoring wisdom from those with more experience. All right then, Nobara stood, gathering her equipment. Let's go deal with a creepy painting. How hard can it be? The art gallery sat in an upscale district, its modern architecture contrasting with the traditional works housed within. Ijichi had arranged for the building to be closed for maintenance, and the 3 students approached through the employee entrance. Yuji's transparent world had been analyzing the structure since they arrived. Through walls and floors, he could perceive the cursed energy emanating from the 3rd floor, a thick, malevolent presence that pulsed like a heartbeat. But more concerning were the tendrils of curse energy spreading throughout the building like roots, suggesting the painting had been here long enough to claim the entire gallery as its territory. The curse has established a domain, Yuji said softly as they entered. Not a complete domain expansion, but extensive enough that it can influence the entire building. We should assume it's aware of our presence. Megumi's eyes widened slightly. You can sense all that from here? I can see it, Yuji corrected. The cursed energy has permeated the structure itself. Look. He pointed at a wall where, to normal eyes, nothing appeared unusual. The energy flows through the walls like veins, all connecting back to the source on the 3rd floor. It's been feeding on the emotions of visitors for quite some time. Great, Nobara muttered, so we're walking into its home territory. Any suggestions, oh fearless leader? Yuji considered carefully, his transparent world analyzing the curse's energy distribution. We have 3 options. First, we could attempt to sever its connection to the building by destroying the tendrils systematically. This would weaken it but take time and risk it escaping. Second, we could attack directly, but fighting in its established territory gives it significant advantages. Third, he paused, we could force it to concentrate its power, drawing all that distributed energy back to its core, then eliminate it in a single, decisive strike. Option 3 sounds risky, Megumi said. How would we force it to concentrate? By threatening its existence, Yuji replied. If it believes we are capable of destroying it, it will pull back all its distributed power to defend itself. At that moment, When its energy is concentrated but not yet organized into coherent defense, we strike. And you're confident you can eliminate it in that window? Nobara asked. Yuji's expression grew melancholic. I am confident I can eliminate it, yes. Whether I should is another question. This curse was born from the suffering depicted in the painting, the agony of warriors dying in battle. It exists as a manifestation of that historical pain. In a sense, we are destroying a memory of that suffering. Philosophical crisis later, Nobara said firmly. Right now, that thing is hurting people. Memory or not, it needs to go. You are correct, Yuji acknowledged. Forgive my hesitation. Let us proceed with option 3. Fushiguro-san, can your divine dog sense the curse's core location precisely? Already on it, Megumi said, hand-forming shadow puppets. 2 dogs materialized from his shadow, their forms flickering between corporeal and shadow. They immediately oriented toward the 3rd floor, growling. Kugisaki-san, Yuji continued, your technique allows you to attack targets remotely, correct? Once I force the curse to concentrate, I may need you to strike simultaneously from a different angle to prevent escape. I can do that, Nobara confirmed, readying her hammer and nails. Just give me a clear signal. They ascended the stairs, Megumi's divine dogs leading the way. The cursed energy grew thicker with each floor, the air itself becoming heavy with malevolence. Paintings on the walls seemed to watch them pass, their subjects' eyes following movement that shouldn't be possible in static art. The 3rd floor gallery was a long hallway lined with classical paintings, each depicting battles from various historical periods. At the far end hung the cursed painting, larger than the others, its frame ornate and ancient. The scene showed samurai warriors in the midst of combat, their faces twisted in expressions of agony and rage. But what made Yuji's breath catch was what he saw through the transparent world. The painting wasn't just cursed, it was a door. Behind the canvas, a space existed that shouldn't be possible, a pocket dimension created by centuries of accumulated suffering and fear. The curse itself dwelled in that space, using the painting as both anchor and barrier. It's not in our world, Yuji said quietly. The painting is a threshold. The curse exists in a space between reality and imagination, feeding on those who view it by drawing them partially into its domain. That explains the mental breakdowns, Megumi said grimly. They weren't just seeing a cursed painting. They were being pulled into the curse's domain without realizing it. So how do we hit something that's not fully in our world? Nobara demanded. Yuji stepped forward, his amber eyes focused on the painting with absolute intensity. I will force it to manifest completely. A curse cannot harm people in the physical world while remaining in its pocket dimension. It must extend itself outward to attack. When it does, he drew his hand back as if gripping a sword hilt. I will sever the connection between its domain and this world, then eliminate it before it can retreat. That's insane, Nobara said. You're going to cut through dimensions? Not dimensions, Yuji corrected gently. I will cut through the cursed energy that sustains the barrier between spaces. Everything in existence has structure, and structure can be severed if one can perceive it clearly enough. He walked directly toward the painting, his movements calm and purposeful. The cursed energy responded to his approach, tendrils withdrawing from throughout the building, concentrating around the canvas. The air shimmered with power as the curse prepared to defend itself. Come forth, Yuji said softly, his voice carrying neither challenge nor aggression, simply gentle inevitability. Your suffering has created pain for others. I cannot allow that to continue. Please forgive me for what I must do. The painting rippled like water, and something emerged. It was human-shaped but wrong, a warrior assembled from fragments of all the samurai depicted in the painting, its body a patchwork of armor styles and weapons from different eras. Its face cycled through expressions of rage, fear, agony, and despair. The curse screamed, and the sound contained the dying cries of hundreds of warriors, all compressed into a single horrific note. Now! Yuji commanded. Megumi's divine dogs attacked from the flanks, their shadow forms darting in to harry the curse's attention. Nobara's nails flew, embedding themselves in the gallery walls around the curse, creating a geometric pattern that would channel her technique. But Yuji was already moving. Dance of the Fire God 13th Form. The cursed energy blade that materialized in his hands burned with intensity far beyond any form he had demonstrated previously. This wasn't a single technique, but rather the beginning of a continuous assault, every form flowing into the next without pause, without hesitation, without mercy. He struck with unknowing fire, the blade appearing at the curse's throat before it could react. Then, immediately into clear blue sky, the circular slash preventing its retreat. Raging sun's horizontal strikes drove it downward. Burning bones, summer sun intensified the flames, the heat beginning to burn away the curse's physical form. The curse tried to retreat back into its pocket dimension, but Yuji saw the attempt through his transparent world, saw the cursed energy forming the dimensional pathway. Setting sun transformation twisted mid-strike, the blade changing direction to sever that connection. The pathway collapsed, trapping the curse fully in physical reality. Solar heat haze created confusion with afterimages, while beneficent radiance spiraled around the curse's defenses. Sunflower thrust found and struck every vital point simultaneously. The curse's core, its energy flow nodes, the connection to the painting itself. Dragon Sun Halo head dance flowed like water, like flames, like inevitability itself. Firewheel created a vertical slash that bisected the curse's torso. Fake Rainbow left it unable to determine which attack was real, as Yuji seemed to exist in multiple positions simultaneously. And finally, Flame Dance, the 12th form executed with such power that the very air ignited, creating a wall of crimson-cursed energy that consumed everything in its path. The entire sequence had taken perhaps 3 seconds. The curse dissolved, its scream cutting off mid-cry as its existence was burned away so thoroughly that not even residual cursed energy remained. The painting itself crumbled to ash, the pocket dimension collapsing without its anchor. The malevolent presence that had saturated the building evaporated like morning dew under sunlight. Yuji stood in the aftermath, his breathing still controlled and steady, the cursed energy blade fading from his hands. He looked at the ashes of the painting with profound sadness. "The suffering that created you has ended," he said quietly. "I hope this brings peace to those whose pain you embodied. Please forgive me." Megumi dismissed his divine dogs, staring at Yuji with undisguised awe. I've never seen anything like that. You completely overwhelmed it. It didn't land a single hit." "The 13th form does not cease until the opponent is defeated," Yuji explained. "Once begun, the assault continues without pause, each strike flowing into the next. The opponent has no opportunity to counterattack or defend properly. It is," he paused, searching for words. "It is absolute." "Absolute is one word for it," Nobara said, lowering her hammer. "Terrifying is another." "Yuji, you just casually obliterated a grade 2 curse with the kind of overkill normally reserved for special grade threats." "I wanted to ensure it did not suffer unnecessarily," Yuji said. "A quick death is more merciful than prolonged combat." Before either could respond, Gojo's voice echoed through the gallery. "Well done, well done. Excellent leadership, decisive action, overwhelming force. You checked all the boxes." They turned to find him leaning against the gallery entrance, having apparently been watching the entire time. "When did you arrive?" Megumi asked. "I was here the whole time," Gojo said cheerfully. "Just wanted to see how Yuji handled his first mission without knowing I was observing. And I have to say," he looked directly at Yuji, "that 13th form of yours is something else, combining all 12 preceding techniques into a continuous assault pattern. It's basically a domain expansion without the domain." "I would not describe it in such terms," Yuji said. "It is simply complete. When executed properly, there is no defense because there is no pause in which to mount defense." "Exactly," Gojo grinned. "It's a perfect technique. Well, perfect for elimination at least. Though I noticed you showed genuine sadness when destroying the curse. That's unusual. All suffering deserves recognition," Yuji repeated his earlier words. "Even the suffering of curses born from human darkness, they are victims of circumstances beyond their control." "But you eliminated it anyway," Gojo pointed out. "Yes," Yuji agreed simply, "because protecting people takes precedence over my emotional discomfort. The complexity of the moral situation does not absolve me of responsibility to act." Gojo's smile softened. "You're going to do well here, Yuji Itadori, not just because you're strong, but because you understand what that strength is for." He turned to Megumi and Nobara. You two did excellent support work. Yuji may have finished the fight, but your coordination and positioning prevented the curse from escaping or spreading its influence. That's good teamwork. Thanks, Nobara said, though she still seemed slightly overwhelmed by what she'd witnessed. Though I feel like my contribution was pretty minimal compared to the human blender over here. Every role matters, Yuji said gently. But your technique created boundaries that limited the curse's movement options. Fushiguro-san's divine dogs drew its attention at crucial moments. Without that support, my assault would have been less effective. Please do not diminish your contributions. Megumi studied him carefully. You really mean that, don't you? You actually value our help, even though you could have handled this alone. Strength alone does not make one effective, Yuji replied. Teamwork, coordination, mutual support. These things multiply effectiveness beyond what any individual can achieve. I am powerful, yes, but power without wisdom and cooperation is merely destructive force. I would rather be part of a team than a solitary warrior. Well said, Gojo approved. All right, mission complete. Let's get you three back to campus. Ijichi will handle the cleanup and report filing. And Yuji, his tone turned more serious. Start thinking about what you want from your time at Jujutsu High. You're already stronger than most sorcerers will ever be. So the question becomes, what do you want to achieve? What's your goal beyond help people? Because that's too broad. You need something specific to aim for. Yuji considered this as they exited the gallery. His transparent world continued showing him the world in all its complex detail. The flow of cursed energy through the city, the small curses skittering in shadows, the people going about their lives unaware of the dangers lurking just beyond perception. I want to ensure no one dies alone, he finally said. My grandfather's final wish was that I help people have proper deaths, surrounded by those who care for them. In a world of curses and sudden violence, that seems difficult to achieve. But perhaps if I become strong enough, skilled enough, I can protect people long enough for them to reach natural ends, to say goodbye to their loved ones, to face death with peace rather than terror. That's, Nobara trailed off, that's actually really sad, but also kind of beautiful? It's an impossible goal, Megumi said quietly. You can't save everyone. People will die regardless of how strong you become. I know, Yuji agreed, his expression melancholic. But impossibility does not absolve me of trying. Even if I can only save one person, give one person a better death, that is worthwhile. My grandfather taught me that the value of a single life is immeasurable, so I will fight to protect each life I encounter, knowing I will fail more often than I succeed, but trying nonetheless. Gojo was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his usual playful tone had faded completely. Yuji Itadori, he said seriously, I think you might be exactly what this world needs. Not because you're strong, but because you understand what that strength should protect. Stay true to that purpose, and you'll go far. As they walked through Tokyo's evening streets, 3 first-year Jujutsu sorcerers and their teacher, Yuji, felt something he hadn't experienced since his grandfather's death. A sense of belonging. These people, this school, this purpose. Perhaps here he could finally understand why he had been born with abilities that transcended normal human limits. Perhaps here he could find meaning in the power that had always set him apart. And perhaps, through that meaning, he could honor his grandfather's final wish. The mark on his forehead seemed to warm slightly, as if acknowledging his determination. In the depths of his soul, something ancient and powerful stirred. Memories that were not his own, techniques that transcended a single lifetime, a legacy written in flame and sword. But for now, Yuji simply walked with his teammates, learning what it meant to be part of something greater than himself, learning what it meant to be a Jujutsu sorcerer. Three weeks passed in a rhythm of missions, training, and gradual understanding. Yuji, Megumi, and Nobara had become a cohesive unit, their individual strengths complementing each other in ways that made them far more effective than the sum of their parts. Megumi had learned to use his divine dogs as scouts for Yuji's transparent world, the combination allowing them to map cursed energy distributions across entire city blocks. Nobara had developed techniques to channel Yuji's cursed energy through her nails, creating devastating long-range attacks that carried the heat and power of his solar sovereignty. And Yuji had learned the 1,000 small details of jujutsu sorcery that no amount of natural talent could replace. Protocol, curse theory, the political landscape of the jujutsu world. But the person who would most significantly impact Yuji's journey had yet to appear. That changed on a humid afternoon in late spring when Gojo called them to the training grounds for what he described as a very special introduction. "There's someone I want you to meet," Gojo announced, practically vibrating with anticipation. He's a third-year student from the Kyoto campus, but he's here in Tokyo for the exchange event preparations. More importantly, he's one of the most naturally talented jujutsu sorcerers of this generation. I think you and he will get along fantastically, Yuji. Before Yuji could respond, a massive presence made itself known. "Gojo-sensei!" A booming voice echoed across the training grounds. "You said there was a first year who could challenge me. Where is this incredible fighter you've been hiding?" Aoi Todo strode into view, his imposing frame and confident demeanor immediately dominating the space. He wore the Kyoto school uniform, his muscular build and intense expression suggesting someone who lived for combat. His eyes scanned the assembled first years with undisguised interest. "Ah, Todo," Gojo greeted cheerfully. "Perfect timing. Let me introduce you to Yuji Itadori, the first year I mentioned." Todo's gaze locked onto Yuji, and something shifted in his expression. Through his transparent world, Yuji saw Todo's cursed energy spike with excitement, his muscles tensing in anticipation of combat. But more than that, Yuji perceived something else. A loneliness, a searching quality, as if Todo had been looking for something specific without knowing what it was. "You," Todo said, approaching Yuji directly. "You're the one Gojo-sensei claims rivals his strength?" "I would not make such a claim myself," Yuji replied gently, bowing respectfully. "Gojo-san is the strongest jujutsu sorcerer. I am simply someone trying to learn and help others." Todo stopped, studying Yuji with newfound intensity. "Humble, polite, but I can sense it. Beneath that calm exterior, you possess tremendous power." He crossed his arms. "Before we fight, I must know, what is your type of woman?" The question caught everyone off guard. "My type?" Yuji repeated, genuinely confused by the non sequitur. "Yes," Todo declared. "A person's taste in women reveals their very soul. So tell me, Yuji Itadori, what kind of woman strikes your fancy? Be specific." Yuji considered the question with the same seriousness he applied to everything else. "I have not given much thought to romantic preferences," he admitted. "But if I must answer, I suppose I would appreciate someone with a kind heart and strong spirit, someone who uses their strength to protect others rather than for selfish gain. Physical appearance matters far less than character and purpose." Todo's eyes widened. For a long moment, he simply stared at Yuji. Then, slowly, tears began streaming down his face. "Brother!" he shouted, rushing forward to grip Yuji's shoulders. "Finally, someone who understands, not shallow attraction to appearance alone, but recognition of the soul, the spirit, the essence of what makes a person worthy. You are my brother Yuji Itadori, my kindred spirit." "I appreciate your enthusiasm," Yuji said carefully, not pulling away despite the intensity of Todo's reaction. "Though I am uncertain what my answer prompted such emotion." "You don't understand." Todo was practically vibrating. "I have searched my entire life for someone who sees the world as I do, someone who values the warrior spirit, who recognizes strength of character over superficial qualities. And here you are, not only possessing that understanding, but also wielding power that rivals the greatest sorcerers." He released Yuji's shoulders, stepping back with a grin. "We must fight immediately. I need to test the strength of my brother." "Todo," Gojo interjected, "maybe dial back the intensity a little? Yuji's still getting used to how Jujutsu society works." "Nonsense," Todo declared. "The best way to understand someone is through combat. Their techniques, their instincts, their very soul reveals itself in battle." He looked at Yuji. "What do you say, brother? Will you show me your strength?" Yuji glanced at Gojo, who shrugged permissively, then back at Todo. Through his transparent world, he could see Todo's genuine desire for connection beneath the aggressive enthusiasm. This was someone who expressed himself through combat, who found meaning in testing himself against worthy opponents. "If it would help us understand each other better," Yuji said gently, "then I accept. However, please understand that I do not enjoy fighting for fighting's sake. My techniques exist to protect people, not to prove superiority." spoken like a true warrior. Todo approved. The greatest fighters understand that strength without purpose is meaningless. Very well. Show me this purpose. Show me the power that makes Gojo-sensei speak of you with such interest. They moved to the center of the training grounds, barriers shimmering into place around them. Megumi and Nobara watched from the sidelines with Gojo, both wondering how this would unfold. Before we begin, Yuji said, assuming a stance that was simultaneously relaxed and perfectly balanced, I must ask, how far should I go? I do not wish to injure you seriously. Todo laughed, a genuine sound of delight. Don't hold back, brother. I want to see everything you have. And don't worry about injuring me. I can take it. Very well, Yuji said softly. Then I will honor your request by fighting seriously. Please forgive me if I cause you pain. The moment the words left his mouth, Yuji moved. To Todo's credit, his instincts were exceptional. He raised his arms to block just as Yuji appeared before him, the speed of the approach barely registering before impact. But when Yuji's fist connected with Todo's guard, the larger man slid backward 3 meters, his feet carving trenches in the ground. Incredible speed, Todo grinned, shaking out his arms. And that power, you reinforced your body with cursed energy so thoroughly that a simple punch carried tremendous force. Good. Very good. But let me show you something. Todo clapped his hands, and suddenly Yuji's transparent world perceived a shift in spatial positioning. Todo's cursed technique activated, Boogie Woogie, which allowed him to swap the positions of anything containing cursed energy. In an instant, their positions reversed, and Todo's massive fist was swinging toward where Yuji now stood. But Yuji had seen the technique's mechanism through the transparent world, had perceived the cursed energy pattern that enabled the swap. His body adjusted mid-teleportation, and when Todo's punch arrived, Yuji had already shifted his position slightly, allowing the attack to pass through the space he had occupied a fraction of a second earlier. You adapted to Boogie Woogie in a single use, Todo said, genuine admiration in his voice. Those eyes of yours see everything, don't they? I see the flow of cursed energy, Yuji confirmed. Your technique swaps positions by manipulating spatial cursed energy in response to your clap. Once I understood the mechanism, I could predict and adjust to it. Marvelous. Todo clapped again, this time swapping himself with a training post behind Yuji. But again, Yuji had tracked the cursed energy flow, had seen the swap coming, and turned to face Todo before the larger man could capitalize on the repositioning. Dance of the Fire God, Yuji said quietly, cursed energy manifesting as a blade in his hands. First form, unknowing fire. The thrust came so fast that even Todo's exceptional reflexes barely allowed him to dodge. The blade passed within centimeters of his torso, the heat from its passage singeing his uniform. Todo's eyes widened as he perceived not just the speed, but the perfect form of the attack. No wasted motion, no telegraphed intent, just pure technique executed flawlessly. That's not a standard jujutsu technique, Todo observed, circling carefully. Where did you learn it? I have always known it, Yuji replied simply. These forms exist within me as naturally as breathing. Natural talent beyond measure, Todo's grin widened impossibly. This is exactly what I wanted, a brother who pushes me to my limits. Come, show me more of these forms. What followed was not so much a battle as a demonstration of the vast gulf between their abilities. Yuji flowed through his forms with increasing intensity, clear blue sky forcing Todo to leap back, raging sun driving him into defensive positions, burning bones, summer sun making the very air shimmer with heat. Each technique pushed Todo further, testing his defenses, his reflexes, his ability to adapt. Todo used Boogie Woogie creatively, swapping himself with objects around the training ground to create unpredictable angles of attack. But Yuji's transparent world saw every swap before it occurred, his body already adjusting to counter positions that hadn't yet been taken. It was like watching someone play chess against an opponent who could see 50 moves ahead, impressive effort but ultimately futile. Seventh form, Beneficent Radiance. The spiral slash created a barrier of cursed energy that Todo couldn't penetrate, forcing him to retreat. His breathing had grown heavier, sweat beading on his forehead, while Yuji remained calm and controlled. You're incredible, Todo said, genuine awe in his voice. I'm giving everything I have, and you haven't even broken a sweat. Is this really your full power? No, Yuji admitted. I am holding back significantly. The 13th form would end this immediately, but I do not wish to harm you seriously. You are strong, Todo-san. Your technique is clever and your instincts exceptional. Under different circumstances, you would be overwhelming most opponents. But not you, Todo finished, his grin never fading, because you exist on a completely different level. He straightened, lowering his guard. I yield, brother. You've proven your strength beyond any doubt. Yuji dismissed his cursed energy blade immediately, approaching Todo with concern. Are you injured? I tried to control my force, but if I struck too hard... I'm fine. Todo laughed, clapping Yuji on the shoulder hard enough to stagger a normal person. Yuji didn't move. Better than fine. I finally found someone worthy of being called my brother. Someone who understands strength, purpose, and the warrior spirit. His expression grew serious. Yuji Itadori, I swear to you, I will support you in whatever battles you face. Your strength deserves to be witnessed. Your purpose deserves to be fulfilled. If you ever need my help, you need only ask. The profound sincerity in Todo's voice touched something in Yuji. Through his transparent world, he saw the loneliness that had driven Todo's search for connection. The genuine joy in his cursed energy now that he had found what he was looking for. Not just a strong opponent, but someone who understood. Thank you, Todo-san, Yuji said gently. Your friendship means a great deal to me. Though I am still uncertain what I did to earn such loyalty, I am grateful for it. Please know that I will likewise support you however I can. Brother? Todo pulled Yuji into a crushing hug that would have broken ribs if not for cursed energy reinforcement. We will achieve great things together. The world has not seen warriors like us in generations. From the sidelines, Gojo's grin was practically splitting his face. See? I told you they'd get along great. That's one word for it, Nobara muttered. Is Todo always this intense? Always, Megumi confirmed. But he's genuine about it. If he says he'll support Yuji, he means it absolutely. Todo's loyalty is... He paused, searching for words. Overwhelming, but real. When Todo finally released Yuji, the larger man's expression carried determination. We must train together. I want to understand these forms of yours, to see if I can incorporate their principles into my own fighting style. And you must meet my other friends from Kyoto. They'll be amazed by you. I would be honored to train with you, Yuji said, though I should warn you that these techniques are unique to me. I do not know if they can be taught to others. Then I'll learn what I can and develop my own variations, Todo declared. That's what a true warrior does, observes greatness and evolves. He turned to Gojo. Sensei, I request permission to stay in Tokyo until the exchange event. I need to train with my brother. Gojo pretended to consider. I suppose having a third year around to push Yuji could be beneficial. Plus, it'll give the Tokyo students an example of what they'll face during the event. All right, permission granted. But you're sleeping in the guest quarters, not the first-year dorms. Acceptable. Todo boomed. Brother Yuji, let us begin immediately. I want to understand how you achieve such perfect form. As Todo enthusiastically began discussing training regimens, Yuji found himself drawn into a conversation that ranged from combat techniques to philosophy to, inexplicably, Todo's theories about the nature of cursed energy and human emotion. Despite the intensity, there was something refreshing about Todo's directness. No hidden motives, no political maneuvering, just pure, genuine connection. You know, Megumi said quietly to Nobara as they watched, I think Yuji just gained the world's most enthusiastic training partner. Poor Yuji, Nobara replied, though she was smiling. He's too polite to tell Todo to calm down. I don't think he wants to, Megumi observed. Look at his expression. He's actually engaging with Todo's enthusiasm. I think he appreciates having someone who matches his intensity, even if it manifests differently. Indeed, Yuji's usual melancholic calm had softened slightly, his responses to Todo carrying genuine warmth. Here was someone who understood strength not as superiority but as responsibility, who saw combat not as violence but as expression of purpose. Despite their vastly different personalities, they shared fundamental values. As the sun set over Tokyo Jujutsu High, a new friendship formed, one that would shape events to come in ways no one could predict. 2 months passed in intensive training. Todo's presence had pushed everyone to improve. Megumi had developed new Shikigami applications. Nobara had refined her long-range techniques, and Yuji had begun understanding how to integrate his natural abilities with formal jujutsu theory. But more importantly, the bond between the first-year trio and Todo had solidified into genuine friendship. Todo had proven himself not just a powerful ally, but a source of wisdom about the jujutsu world's political complexities. He explained the rivalries between schools, the importance of the exchange event, and the various factions within jujutsu society. The exchange event is more than just competition, Todo explained during one training session. It's where future relationships are formed, where reputations are built. The students who excel here often become the leaders of the next generation. So when you step onto that field, brother, you're not just representing Tokyo, you're making a statement about what kind of sorcerer you'll become. Now, standing in the assembly hall with the rest of Tokyo's students, Yuji understood the weight of Todo's words. Across from them, Kyoto's team had arrived, 6 students ranging from 2nd to 3rd years, each carrying themselves with the confidence of trained warriors. Principal Yoshinobu Gakuganji of Kyoto addressed the assembled students, his ancient voice carrying authority. The exchange event consists of 2 parts. First, a team battle where you will compete to eliminate cursed spirits in a designated area. Second, individual matches between selected participants. Both events test not just strength, but strategy, teamwork, and adaptability. Yuji's transparent world had been analyzing Kyoto's team since they arrived. Mai Zenin, whose cursed energy pattern suggested she was related to Megumi somehow. Kasumi Miwa, carrying a katana with practiced familiarity. Kokichi Muta operating a mechanical puppet from a distance. Noritoshi Kamo, whose bloodline technique created intricate, cursed energy patterns. Momo Nishimiya on her flying broom. And of course, Todo. Each possessed significant strength, but through his perception, Yuji could see the gaps in their teamwork, the individual fighting styles that didn't quite mesh perfectly. Tokyo's team was younger but more cohesive. Yuji, Megumi, and Nobara had trained together extensively, with 2nd years Maki Zenin, Toge Inumaki, and Panpanda rounding out their numbers. Yuji, Gojo had pulled him aside before the assembly, his tone uncharacteristically serious. I needed to tell you something about this event. Kyoto's principal, he's not your biggest fan. In fact, he's actively opposed existence. Why? Yuji asked simply. Because you're too strong without being controllable, Gojo explained. Gakuganji is old school. He believes in hierarchy, control, predictability. You represent chaos in his ordered world. A first year with strength, rivaling special grades, techniques no one understands, and a personality that doesn't conform to expected patterns. He'll try to undermine you during this event. Be careful. I understand, Yuji had said. I will remain vigilant. Now, as Gakuganji's speech concluded and the teams were dismissed to prepare, Yuji felt eyes on him from Kyoto's side. Through his transparent world, he perceived their cursed energy signatures shifting, some with curiosity, some with hostility, some with calculation. Todo bounded over immediately. Brother, are you ready to show Kyoto what real strength looks like? I am ready to do my best, Yuji replied gently. Though I should remind you that you are technically on Kyoto's team, won't supporting me create conflicts? Todo waved this off. Nonsense. You are my brother. That transcends school loyalties. Besides, I've already told my teammates that I won't fight seriously against you. They accepted it. That seems problematic for team dynamics, Yuji observed. They'll manage. Todo grinned. Now, let me introduce you properly to everyone. They've heard about you, but meeting you in person is different. The introductions were a mix of reactions. Kasumi Miwa was starstruck, her cursed energy flickering with admiration and nervousness. Mai Zenin was skeptical, her expression suggesting she thought Yuji was overhyped. Noritoshi Kamo was calculating, clearly analyzing Yuji for weaknesses. Momo seemed dismissive, though her cursed energy carried underlying wariness. But it was Kokichi's mechanical puppet that spoke most directly. So you're the anomaly Gojo-sensei keeps praising, the first year who supposedly rivals special grades. We'll see if the reality matches the reputation. I hope to compete honorably with all of you, Yuji said, bowing respectfully. Please fight with your full strength. I would not want to insult anyone by facing half-hearted efforts. Confident, aren't you? Mai challenged. Not confident, Yuji corrected gently. Simply stating preference. I learn most from opponents who challenge me seriously. Half-hearted combat benefits no one. Noritoshi stepped forward, his expression neutral. Itadori-san, I've studied the reports about your abilities, your transparent world, your perfect cursed energy control, your unknown techniques. But reports only tell so much. I'm curious, how do you perceive the world through those eyes? The question was more thoughtful than hostile, and Yuji appreciated the genuine curiosity. I see everything as it truly is, he explained. The flow of energy, the structure of matter, the connections between cause and effect. It's like reading a book where every page is visible simultaneously. I can perceive past, present, and the immediate future all at once, because I see the patterns that create outcomes. That sounds overwhelming, Kasumi said quietly. It can be, Yuji admitted. Sometimes I wish I could unsee certain things. The suffering in the world becomes very clear when you can perceive its every manifestation. But this ability also allows me to help people more effectively, so I try to view it as a gift rather than a burden. The melancholic wisdom in his voice created a moment of silence. Well, Momo said eventually, at least you're not arrogant about it. That's something. Before the conversation could continue, Maki-Zenin approached, Mai's twin sister, though their relationship carried obvious tension. Yuji, Gojo-sensei wants to brief the Tokyo team. We should go. As Yuji excused himself and followed Maki, he caught Todo's encouraging grin and Noritoshi's thoughtful expression. The exchange event was about to begin, and the dynamics between schools, between teammates, between rivals would all come into play. The team battle took place in a forested area outside Tokyo, cursed spirits having been deliberately released to create hunting grounds. The objective was simple: eliminate as many curses as possible within the time limit. Points were awarded based on curse grade, with bonuses for teamwork and strategy. Tokyo's team gathered for final strategy. Yuji, Maki said bluntly, you're our ace. We all know it. But this is a team event, which means we need to work together, not just let you obliterate everything solo. I agree completely, Yuji said. How would you like me to support the team? Megumi had clearly been thinking about this. Your transparent world can map the entire forest and locate all the curses. If you share that information, we can coordinate our movements to maximize efficiency. You handle the highest grade curses while the rest of us deal with the lower grades systematically. That is a sound strategy, Yuji approved. However, I would also like to suggest rotating partners. Each of you could benefit from working with me directly for portions of the event, learning how I perceive and respond to combat situations. This serves both immediate goals and long-term development. Panda nodded enthusiastically. I like that idea. Plus it shows we're not just relying on one person. Togi Inamaki spoke, his cursed speech limited to food ingredients. Salmon. Agreement. All right, Maki decided. Yuji starts with Megumi since they work together most. Every 15 minutes, switch partners. Megumi goes solo, Yuji pairs with Nobara, then Panda, then me, then Inumaki. We cycle through, adapting as needed. One more thing, Yuji said quietly. I will not use my 13th form unless absolutely necessary. That technique is too destructive for a competition. I will rely on the first 12 forms and basic cursed energy manipulation. Even without that technique, you're still overwhelming, Nobara pointed out, but I appreciate you not going completely overkill. The signal sounded, and the event began. Yuji's transparent world immediately mapped the entire forest, every tree, every curse, every participant from both schools. He saw Kyoto's team splitting into pairs, their strategy clearly focused on efficient curse hunting with Todo acting as their mobile powerhouse. Fushiguro-san, Yuji said softly, there are 3 grade 2 curses northwest, approximately 200 meters distant. One grade 1 is south, 500 meters. Multiple grade 3 and 4 curses scattered throughout. How would you like to proceed? Megumi's divine dogs manifested. We take the grade 2 curses together. I'll flush them out with my dogs. You eliminate them with precision strikes. Speed is essential. The faster we clear targets, the more points we accumulate. They moved through the forest like shadows, Megumi's Shikigami driving curses into positions where Yuji could strike efficiently. The first curse, a grotesque amalgamation of insects, fell to unknowing fire before it could even perceive the attack. The second, a serpentine creature, was bisected by clear blue sky. The third attempted to flee but ran directly into fake rainbow's illusions and died confused. 3 grade 2 curses in under 2 minutes, Megumi muttered. We're setting a ridiculous pace. Should we slow down? Yuji asked, genuinely uncertain. No, Megumi decided. We show them what Tokyo can do. Full speed ahead. By the first rotation, Yuji and Megumi had eliminated 7 curses total. When Nobara joined him, their coordination was different but equally effective. She used his perception to place her nails with devastating accuracy, while he protected her from ambushes and eliminated curses that got too close. With Panda, the dynamic shifted again. Panda's 3 cores gave him versatility, and Yuji learned to predict which core would activate based on cursed energy flow patterns. They developed an improvised combination where Panda's gorilla core provided brute force, while Yuji provided precision, creating a devastating balance. Maki's cursed energy restriction meant she was invisible to normal sensory techniques, but Yuji's transparent world saw her physical form perfectly. They moved in synchronized silence, 2 warriors who understood economy of motion and efficiency of violence. Maki's cursed tool usage combined with Yuji's techniques created a fighting style that was almost artistic in its brutality. With Inumaki, verbal communication was minimal, but Yuji's ability to perceive cursed speech patterns before Inumaki vocalized them created perfect timing. Inumaki would use cursed speech to immobilize targets, and Yuji would eliminate them in the brief window before they could adapt. Across the forest, Kyoto's team was working efficiently, but not at Tokyo's pace. Todo had encountered several high-grade curses and was handling them with his characteristic intensity. But the rest of Kyoto's team was more methodical, more conservative. Then Yuji's transparent world perceived something that made him pause. A special grade curse had manifested deep in the forest, something that shouldn't have been present in what was supposed to be a controlled event. Its cursed energy signature was massive, malevolent, and actively hostile. Everyone, Yuji spoke through the communication devices they carried, his voice calm but urgent. A special grade curse has appeared in Sector 7. This is not part of the official event. I'm moving to intercept. Please maintain distance and continue with the mission. Wait, Maki's voice crackled back. You can't fight a special grade alone. I can and I will, Yuji replied gently but firmly. This curse poses a threat to all participants. Eliminating it takes priority over event standings. Please trust me. He was already moving, his speed carrying him through the forest faster than human perception could track. The special grade curse had appeared near where Kyoto's team was operating, specifically near where Mai and Kasumi were paired. Through his transparent world, he saw the curse's true form, a massive humanoid figure composed of what appeared to be tortured human faces, each screaming silently, their cursed energy signatures, suggesting they had once been actual people who had been consumed and integrated into the curse's being. Mai and Kasumi had encountered it and were retreating rapidly, Mai firing her construction cursed energy bullets while Kasumi's blade work kept the curse at bay. But they were clearly outmatched, their techniques insufficient against a special grade threat. Yuji arrived in a blur of motion, appearing between the students and the curse. Please fall back, he said softly to Mai and Kasumi. I will handle this. That's a special grade, Mai protested. Even if you're strong, you can't. Please, Yuji repeated, his amber eyes fixed on the curse with absolute focus. Trust me, fall back now. Something in his tone, the gentle certainty, the complete lack of fear or bravado, made them obey. The special grade curse turned its attention to Yuji, hundreds of faces twisting in expressions of hatred and hunger. It spoke, its voice a chorus of torment. Strong. You are strong. Give us your strength. Become part of us. I understand your suffering, Yuji said quietly, cursed energy beginning to flow through his body in the familiar patterns. You were created from humanity's darkest emotions, from the pain and fear of those you've consumed. You exist in constant agony, seeking to fill a void that can never be filled. The curse lunged, massive arms swinging with enough force to shatter trees. Dance of the Fire God, 9th form. Dragon Sun Halo Head. Dance manifested as Yuji moved like water around the curse's attack, his blade formed of pure cursed energy burning crimson, tracing a path that wove through the air like a dragon's flight. The strike severed 3 of the curse's arms, the heat preventing regeneration. I cannot ease your suffering by allowing you to continue, Yuji continued, his voice carrying melancholic regret. But I can end it. Please forgive me for what I must do. The curse shrieked, its remaining arms multiplying, dozens of limbs sprouting from its torso as it attempted to overwhelm through sheer numbers. 10th form, Fire Wheel. A vertical circular slash created a wall of flames that incinerated the attacking limbs. Yuji's movements flowed seamlessly from one form to the next, each technique executed with perfect precision. The curse couldn't land a single hit. Yuji's transparent world saw every attack before it manifested, his body responding with movements that seemed choreographed, but were actually pure reaction. 12th form, Flame Dance. 2 consecutive strikes, each burning hotter than the sun's surface, each strike targeting the curse's core, the central mass where all the consumed soul's cursed energy concentrated. The first strike shattered its defenses. The second obliterated its essence. The special grade curse dissolved, the tortured faces finally finding peace as their cursed energy dispersed. Yuji stood in the aftermath, his breathing still controlled, his expression carrying deep sadness. "Rest now," he whispered. "Your suffering has ended." From the tree line, Mai and Kasumi stared in absolute shock. Kasumi couldn't finish the sentence. He eliminated a special grade curse in under 30 seconds. Mai completed, her skepticism about Yuji's abilities completely shattered. And he did it while looking sad about it. What the hell is he? Yuji turned to them, his gentle expression unchanged. "Are you both uninjured? The curse did not harm you?" "We're fine," Mai managed. "But that thing was a special grade. How did you—" "Strength is simply a tool," Yuji said quietly. "What matters is using that tool properly. Are you certain you're both unharmed? I can escort you back to the staging area if needed." "We're sorcerers," Kasumi said, finding her voice. "We can handle ourselves. But thank you, Itadori-san. You saved our lives." "I simply did what anyone with the ability should do," Yuji replied. "Please return to your team. I must report this incident. A special grade curse should not have been present in a controlled event. Someone may have interfered." As he activated his communication device to contact Gojo, Mai and Kasumi retreated, their perception of the gentle, melancholic first year completely transformed. "Todo wasn't exaggerating," Mai muttered to Kasumi. "That guy really is on a completely different level." "Did you see how he fought?" Kasumi said, awe in her voice. "It wasn't just strength, it was like watching art. Every movement perfect, every technique flowing into the next. And his eyes, I could tell he was seeing things we couldn't even imagine." Back with Tokyo's team, the event had been immediately suspended when Gojo confirmed Yuji's report. An investigation was launched into how a special grade curse had appeared in what should have been a secure area, but for the students who had witnessed Yuji eliminate the threat with such overwhelming superiority, a new understanding had formed. The rumors about Yuji Itadori weren't exaggerations. If anything, they undersold his abilities. When both teams gathered for the event's conclusion, Gakuganji's expression was thunderous. His plan, whatever it had been, had failed spectacularly. Not only had Yuji survived the special grade encounter, he had eliminated it so efficiently that it barely qualified as a battle. Todo approached Yuji immediately, his grin somehow even wider than usual. "Brother, I heard what you did. A special grade eliminated in 30 seconds. Magnificent. Tell me everything." "It was not magnificent," Yuji said quietly, his melancholic nature showing through. "It was necessary. That curse was suffering, and I ended that suffering. There is no pride in such actions, only relief that no one was harmed." "Your humility is as impressive as your strength," Noritoshi Kamo said, approaching with the rest of Kyoto's team. "Itadori-san, on behalf of Kyoto's students, thank you for protecting Mai and Kasumi. You had no obligation to intervene, but you did anyway." "Anyone with the ability to help has the obligation to do so," Yuji replied simply. "I was simply fortunate to be in a position where I could act." The exchange event's official results showed Tokyo with an overwhelming points lead. Yuji alone had eliminated more high-grade curses than Kyoto's entire team combined. But the numbers felt secondary to the relationships that had been formed and the understanding that had developed. As the students mingled, sharing experiences and perspectives, Yuji found himself the center of attention, not through seeking it, but through the natural gravitation of those curious about his abilities and philosophy. "Your forms," Noritoshi said thoughtfully, "they're not standard jujutsu techniques. Where did they originate?" "I do not know," Yuji admitted. They exist within me as naturally as breathing. My body has always known these movements, these patterns. I have simply learned to channel cursed energy through them. Inherited technique? Mai suggested. Perhaps, Yuji said, though I know nothing of my lineage beyond my grandfather. He never spoke of jujutsu or cursed energy, yet he taught me discipline and form through sword training. Those lessons became the foundation upon which these techniques built themselves. It's like you were born to be a jujutsu sorcerer, Kasumi observed. Or perhaps I was born with abilities I must learn to use responsibly, Yuji corrected gently. Birth does not determine purpose. Choice does. I choose to use these abilities to help others, to protect people, to ensure no one suffers unnecessarily. That choice defines me more than any inherited power. The wisdom in his words, coming from a 16-year-old first year, created contemplative silence. Gojo appeared, his ever-present grin suggesting he was thoroughly enjoying the chaos Yuji had caused for Gakuganji's plans. All right, everyone. The exchange event is officially postponed pending investigation of the special grade incident. But I think we can all agree it's been very educational. As the students dispersed, Yuji remained on the field, his transparent world still active, still perceiving the world in all its complex detail. He had proven his strength beyond any doubt, had earned respect from both schools, had formed bonds that would shape future events. But in his heart, beneath the calm surface, questions lingered. Why had he been born with these abilities? What was their true origin? And why did using them feel both completely natural and strangely ancient, as if he were channeling something that predated his own existence? The mark on his forehead seemed to pulse slightly, as if responding to his thoughts. Somewhere in his soul, memories that were not his own stirred, images of flame and sword, of battles fought in eras long past, of a legacy written in blood and determination. But those were questions for another time. For now, he had fulfilled his purpose, protecting others, helping where he could, using his strength responsibly. And as the sun set over Tokyo Jujutsu High, casting the world in shades of red and gold that matched his cursed energy's color, Yuji Itadori prepared for whatever challenges lay ahead. 3 days after the suspended exchange event, Yuji sat alone in the training grounds at dawn. His transparent world observed the campus awakening, students beginning morning routines, cursed energy barriers being refreshed, the natural flow of life continuing despite recent chaos. But his mind was elsewhere, processing questions that had accumulated since his enrollment. Thinking deep thoughts? Gojo's voice interrupted the silence. The white-haired teacher appeared from nowhere, as was his habit, settling beside Yuji on the wooden platform. I have been contemplating my purpose here, Yuji said quietly. These past months, I have eliminated curses, completed missions, trained with teammates, but I wonder if I am truly growing or simply applying abilities I was born with. That's a surprisingly philosophical question for this early in the morning, Gojo observed. What brought this on? The special grade curse I eliminated during the event, Yuji explained. It took me 30 seconds to destroy a being that most sorcerers would struggle against for hours if they could defeat it at all. And I felt nothing. No challenge, no growth, just execution of technique. Is that what my existence amounts to? Overwhelming power applied efficiently? Gojo was silent for a moment, his expression hidden behind the blindfold, but his tone thoughtful. You know what's interesting about you, Yuji? Most people who possess overwhelming strength either become arrogant about it or terrified by it. But you're neither. You're melancholic about it. Why? Because strength without struggle has no meaning, Yuji replied. My grandfather taught me that growth comes from overcoming challenges. But if I can overcome every challenge through innate ability rather than effort, what am I actually learning? You're learning how to use that strength responsibly, Gojo said. Which is arguably more important than the strength itself. Look at it this way. You were born with extraordinary abilities, yes, but the choice of how to use them is still yours. You could have become a curse user, or a mercenary, or simply ignored the jujutsu world entirely. Instead, you chose to enroll here, to protect people, to honor your grandfather's wish. That choice matters more than the power that enables it. But is that enough? Yuji asked. To simply choose to help without truly understanding why I can help. without knowing the origin of these abilities or their ultimate purpose? Gojo leaned back, looking up at the brightening sky. Let me tell you something about being the strongest, Yuji. It's lonely. Not because people fear you, though some do, but because there's a fundamental disconnect between your experience and everyone else's. Challenges that terrify others are trivial to you. Situations that require desperate effort from most people you resolve with casual application of power. That disconnect creates isolation. You speak from experience, Yuji observed. I speak from a lifetime of being the Six Eyes wielder and limitless technique user, Gojo confirmed. I was born strong, became stronger through training, and eventually reached a point where I had no equals. Do you know what that's like? To go through life knowing no one can truly challenge you, that every battle is predetermined, that your strength itself warps how people interact with you? It sounds like a heavy burden, Yuji said softly. It is, Gojo agreed. But here's what I learned. Strength isn't the burden. Isolation is, which is why forming genuine connections becomes so important. To do recognize something in you that transcends strength, a kindred spirit who understands purpose. Megumi and Nobara don't fear your power. They respect it and incorporate it into their teamwork. You're building relationships that go beyond utility, beyond hierarchy, beyond the transactional nature of most Jujutsu society interactions. Yuji considered this carefully. You believe my purpose here is not to grow stronger, but to understand how strength relates to connection? I believe your purpose is whatever you decide it should be, Gojo corrected. But yes, learning how to maintain humanity while possessing inhuman power. That's a lesson worth pursuing, and it's one you can't learn alone. The conversation was interrupted by Megumi's approach. Gojo-sensei, Yuji, we have a situation. Multiple Grade 1 curses have manifested in Shibuya's shopping district. They're requesting immediate deployment. Gojo stood, his usual cheerful demeanor returning. Well, there's your chance for practical application of our philosophical discussion. Yuji, take Megumi and Nobara. Handle this however you think best. I'll observe, but won't intervene unless things go catastrophically wrong. Understood, Yuji said, rising smoothly. Fushiguro-san, please gather. Kugisaki-san, we will depart immediately. Shibuya's shopping district was chaos incarnate. 3 Grade 1 curses had manifested simultaneously, their presence creating panic among civilians who couldn't perceive them directly, but felt the oppressive malevolence nonetheless. Police had cordoned off the area, but containment was failing as the curses spread. Yuji's transparent world mapped the situation instantly upon arrival. The first curse was a massive centipede-like entity wrapped around a department store. The second resembled a humanoid made of shattered glass, moving through crowds and leaving psychological trauma in its wake. The third was a shapeshifter, appearing as whatever the observer feared most. 3 Grade 1 curses operating in coordination, Megumi observed grimly. That's not natural. Someone deliberately set this up. Agreed, Yuji said quietly, but determining who must wait. Kugisaki-san, can you target the centipede curse from distance? Its body is wrapped around the building, making close combat problematic without risking structural damage. I can try, Nobara confirmed, but I'll need a sample of its cursed energy to lock on properly. I will provide one, Yuji said, already moving. Fushiguro-san, the glass curse is targeting civilians' mental states. Your divine dogs can track it while I handle the centipede. Can you occupy it until I'm available to assist? On it, Megumi agreed, his shikigami manifesting. Yuji approached the department store where the centipede curse coiled. Its cursed energy signature suggested it fed on consumerism and greed, appropriate for a shopping district manifestation. Each of its segments pulsed with malevolent intent, and its mandibles dripped corrosive fluid that ate through concrete. Dance of the Fire God, first form. Unknowing fire struck faster than the curse could perceive, severing one of its segments. The fragment fell, and Yuji caught it midair, tossing it to Nobara, who had positioned herself 3 buildings away. Target acquired, Nobara shouted, her nails embedding in the fragment. Straw doll technique. Resonance. Her cursed energy channeled through the nails, connecting to the main curse body. Each hammer strike against the fragment translated into devastating internal damage across all segments. The curse shrieked, its grip on the building loosening. but it was intelligent. It released the building completely and lunged directly at Nobara's position, abandoning defense for a desperate offensive. Yuji was faster. 8th form, Sunflower Thrust. A rapid series of pinpoint strikes hit every vital segment simultaneously, Yuji's blade appearing in multiple locations at once through pure speed. The curse's charge became a collapse, its body disintegrating as each vital point was destroyed perfectly. One down? Yuji said calmly, already turning toward where Megumi battled the glass curse. The second curse was more problematic. Its attacks were psychological rather than physical. Megumi's divine dogs harried it, but the curse kept slipping away, leaving trails of shattered confidence and amplified fears in civilians' minds. Yuji's transparent world perceived the curse's mechanism. It fed on and reflected psychological trauma, using observers' own fears against them. A difficult opponent for most sorcerers, but Yuji's selfless state meant he had no psychological weaknesses to exploit. He walked directly into the curse's domain of influence, and it immediately attempted to manifest his deepest fear. Nothing happened. The curse's formless shape flickered with confusion. It couldn't find purchase in Yuji's psyche. No fear to amplify, no trauma to reflect, just calm emptiness. "You seek to feed on suffering," Yuji said gently, "but find only stillness. I am sorry, you exist in a state of constant hunger that can never be satisfied. That existence itself is suffering. Allow me to end it." 6th form, Solar Heat Haze. The technique's multiple simultaneous strikes appeared from angles the curse couldn't track, each hit landing before it could adapt. The glass-like body shattered completely, fragments dissolving into cursed energy that dissipated harmlessly. 2 down, Megumi confirmed. The shapeshifter is in the subway station, underground. It's trapped down there with approximately 50 civilians. "Then we must end this quickly," Yuji said. "Civilians in enclosed space with a curse designed to exploit fear, that is a recipe for tragedy." They descended into the subway station, Nobara using her nails to create a defensive perimeter while Megumi's shadows spread out to locate the curse precisely. Yuji's transparent world cut through the darkness, perceiving every person, every tremor of fear, every spike of cursed energy. The shapeshifter curse was clever. It had taken the form of a security guard, hiding among the civilians while spreading terror through whispered suggestions and subtle manipulations. But to Yuji's perception, the difference between human and curse was absolute. He saw through the disguise instantly. "Everyone, please close your eyes," Yuji announced, his voice carrying gentle authority that made people instinctively obey. "Keep them closed until I tell you otherwise. You are safe, I promise you." Then he moved. The curse realized it had been identified and dropped its disguise, its true form emerging, a mass of writhing shadows that could take any shape, any form, anything that would terrorize its victims most effectively. But shapes and forms meant nothing against someone who saw only underlying structure. 9th form, Dragon Sun Halo Head Dance. Yuji's blade wove through the air in patterns that followed the curse's energy flow, cutting not the manifestations but the essence itself. The curse tried to shift, to adapt, to become something that could defend against this overwhelming assault. It failed. The final strike severed its core, and the curse dissolved so completely that not even residual cursed energy remained. "You may open your eyes now," Yuji said softly to the civilians. "The danger has passed. Please follow my companions to the surface. They will ensure your safety." As Megumi and Nobara guided the civilians upward, Yuji remained behind, his transparent world scanning for any remaining threats. The coordinated curse attack had been too precise to be coincidental. Someone had orchestrated this, possibly testing Tokyo's response time and capabilities. But more concerning was what he had felt during the battle, a complete lack of challenge. 3 Grade 1 curses, the kind of threat that would require significant effort from most sorcerers, and he had eliminated them almost casually while protecting civilians and coordinating teammates. Gojo's earlier words echoed, "Strength isn't the burden, isolation is." Was this his future? Battle after battle where the outcome was predetermined, where his overwhelming power made conflict less a struggle and more an inevitability? Where was the growth, the challenge, the meaning beyond simply applying force? He emerged from the subway station to find Gojo waiting, his perpetual grin somehow more knowing than usual. "Excellent work," Gojo said. 3 grade 1 curses eliminated with 0 casualties and minimal property damage. Textbook execution. It felt inadequate, Yuji admitted quietly. Those curses were suffering, their existence itself pain, and I eliminated them efficiently, but without truly understanding them. Is that justice? Or simply expedient violence? That's the question every strong jujutsu sorcerer must answer for themselves, Gojo replied. The balance between mercy and duty, between understanding and elimination. There's no perfect answer, Yuji. Just choices made in the moment, based on your values and the circumstances. Then I choose to seek understanding even as I fulfill duty, Yuji said. These curses, they deserve recognition of their suffering even as I end it. That recognition, that acknowledgement of their pain, perhaps that is what separates necessary action from callous violence. Gojo's smile softened slightly. You're going to do great things, Yuji Itadori. Not because you're strong, but because you think about what that strength means. Keep asking these questions. Keep seeking understanding. Don't let power make you forget why you use it. As they walked back toward where Megumi and Nobara were finishing their civilian care procedures, Yuji felt something shift within him. Not a growth in power that remained constant, overwhelming, almost oppressive in its magnitude, but a growth in purpose, in understanding of what his strength should serve. He would continue protecting people, eliminating curses, fulfilling his grandfather's wish. But he would do so with awareness of what each action meant, what each eliminated curse represented, what each use of overwhelming force signified. This was his path. Not to become stronger, but to become wiser about strength. Not to seek greater power, but to seek better understanding of the power he already possessed. And perhaps in that seeking, he would find the answers to questions that haunted him. Why these abilities? Why this strength? Why him? The mark on his forehead pulsed warmly, as if approving his thoughts. Deep in his soul, those ancient memories stirred again closer to the surface than before, suggesting that answers would come when he was ready to receive them. But for now, he had teammates to support, missions to complete, and a purpose to serve. The journey of understanding had only just begun. 6 months had passed since Yuji Itadori enrolled at Tokyo Jujutsu High. In that time, he had completed 43 missions, eliminated 67 curses ranging from grade 4 to special grade, and earned a reputation that had spread throughout the jujutsu world. They called him many things: the Flameblade Sorcerer, the boy with transparent eyes, the Sun God's successor. But to those who knew him personally, he remained simply Yuji. Gentle, melancholic, overwhelmingly powerful, and profoundly humble. Now, sitting in Gojo's office for what had become a regular evening discussion, Yuji reviewed his growth not in power, that had remained constant, but in understanding. You've changed, Gojo observed, feet propped on his desk in characteristic, casual disrespect for furniture. Not dramatically, but subtly. Your answers to philosophical questions have depth they lacked 6 months ago. Your combat decisions show consideration beyond pure efficiency. What happened? I stopped trying to understand why I am strong, Yuji said quietly, and started focusing on how to use that strength meaningfully. The origin of my abilities may remain a mystery, but their application does not. Every curse I eliminate, every person I protect, every teammate I support, these actions give my strength purpose. Wise words, Gojo approved. Though I suspect you'll discover those origins eventually. Power like yours doesn't just appear randomly. There's a legacy behind it, a history. But you're right. Understanding can wait. Living purposefully cannot. A knock interrupted their conversation. Megumi, Nobara, and Todo entered together, an unusual combination that suggested something significant. Yuji, Megumi said formally, we've been asked to nominate someone for promotion to special grade. The higher-ups want to officially recognize your contributions and capabilities. I recommend declining, Yuji said immediately. Rank serves politics more than purpose. I am content as grade 1. Brother, Todo boomed, you cannot hide your light. The world deserves to know your true strength. The world knows enough, Yuji replied gently. Those who need my help receive it, regardless of rank. Those who fear my power will fear it, whether I'm grade 1 or special grade. The title changes nothing meaningful. He's got a point, Nobara admitted, though it would be hilarious to see the higher-ups' faces if a first year became special grade. "The decision is yours," Gojo said, his tone suggesting he already knew what Yuji would choose. "But consider this. Special grade status comes with certain freedoms. You'd have more autonomy in mission selection, more ability to operate independently when you feel it's necessary." Yuji considered this carefully, his transparent world perceiving not just the people in the room, but the implications of the choice itself. Rank meant politics, expectations, responsibilities beyond simply eliminating curses. But it also meant opportunity to help more people, to operate more effectively. "I will accept promotion," he finally decided, but with the understanding that it changes nothing about who I am or how I operate. I am still a student, still learning, still growing in understanding, if not power. The rank simply provides tools to fulfill my purpose more effectively. Spoken like someone who actually understands what special grade means, Gojo grinned. "All right, I'll submit the recommendation. Expect a lot of political nonsense and ceremony, but ultimately you'll get more freedom to do what you do best, protect people, and make curses regret existing." As the meeting concluded and his friends departed, Yuji remained behind, looking out over Tokyo's evening skyline. His transparent world showed him the city in all its complexity. Millions of lives intersecting, thousands of small dramas playing out simultaneously, and scattered throughout, the cursed energy signatures of threats waiting to harm innocents. This was his world now. Not just Tokyo Jujutsu High, but this entire vast landscape of human suffering and supernatural danger. And within it, he had found purpose, found meaning, found the answer to his grandfather's final wish. He would protect these people. He would eliminate the curses that threatened them. He would use his overwhelming strength not to dominate or control, but to ensure that as many people as possible could live full lives, say their goodbyes properly, and face death with peace rather than terror. It was an impossible goal, he knew that, but impossibility had never stopped him before. The mark on his forehead glowed faintly in the evening light, and for just a moment Yuji thought he heard a voice, ancient, powerful, approving. "For me, you are my pride." Words he had never heard but somehow recognized, carrying weight that transcended single lifetimes, suggesting connections to powers and legacies beyond his current understanding. Someday, he would discover the truth of his origins, the reason for his abilities, the source of the techniques that felt both completely natural and impossibly ancient. But tonight he had teammates to check on, missions to plan for, and a purpose to serve. Yuji Itadori, the Flameblade sorcerer, stood ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Not because he was the strongest, though he was, but because he understood what that strength should protect. And that understanding, more than any technique or power, defined who he truly was. The sun set over Tokyo, painting the sky in shades of crimson and gold that matched the color of his cursed energy. Somewhere in the city, curses stirred and people lived unaware of the dangers around them. But they were protected. They had a guardian who saw everything, who moved like flames, who fought with the techniques of an ancient warrior reborn into a modern world. They had Yuji Itadori. And that made all the difference. The winter air carried unusual warmth as Yuji stood on Tokyo Jujutsu High's rooftop, watching dawn break over the city. His transparent world perceived the gradual awakening, cursed energy signatures shifting as sorcerers began their day, civilians moving through their routines unaware of the supernatural dangers that lurked in shadows. 6 months as a special grade sorcerer had brought changes beyond rank. The Jujutsu world now recognized him not as a promising student, but as one of its two pillars, himself and Satoru Gojo, the strongest sorcerers of this generation. The title felt heavy, not with pride, but with responsibility. "You're up early." Gojo's voice interrupted his contemplation. The white-haired sorcerer approached with his characteristic casual stride, 2 cups of coffee in hand. "Figured you'd be here. You always come to this spot when you're thinking deeply." "Thank you," Yuji said softly, accepting the offered cup. "I was considering how much has changed since enrollment, and how little has changed within me. My strength remains constant, but my understanding continues to evolve." "That's the difference between power and wisdom," Gojo observed, leaning against the rooftop railing. "Power can be inherited, born into you, gifted by circumstances. But wisdom, that only comes through experience, through choosing how to use that power through the weight of decisions made." Yuji's amber eyes reflected the rising sun, I have been feeling something recently, a presence, ancient and malevolent, stirring in ways I cannot fully perceive even with my transparent world. Something is coming, Gojo-san, something that will test everything we have built. Gojo's expression grew serious behind his blindfold. I've felt it too. The higher-ups have been in emergency sessions all week, though they won't tell me specifics. Whatever it is, it's big enough to make them nervous, which takes considerable doing. He paused. You know what I think? I think the time is coming when being the strongest won't be enough, when we'll need to be the strongest together. I would stand beside you against any threat, Yuji said quietly. Your strength and wisdom have guided me since arrival. Whatever comes, we face it as allies. Not allies, Gojo corrected with a slight smile. Equals. You've grown beyond being my student, Yuji. You're my partner in protecting this world. And when the storm comes, and it will come, we'll show everyone what two monsters fighting for humanity can accomplish. The moment was interrupted by an urgent cursed energy signature approaching rapidly. Megumi materialized from shadows, his expression grave in ways that immediately set both strongest sorcerers on alert. Gojo-sensei, Yuji, emergency summons from the higher-ups. There's been an incident in Shibuya. Multiple special-grade cursed spirits, coordinated attack, civilian casualties mounting. But that's not the worst part. Megumi's jaw tightened. There are reports of someone matching Ryomen Sukuna's description. Not just his cursed energy, his actual physical form somehow manifested in the city. Yuji's cursed energy flared instinctively, red and gold flames dancing across his shoulders, before he suppressed them with practiced control. Sukuna, the king of curses. I have read the reports, studied the history. He was sealed, divided into 20 fingers, each containing a fraction of his power. Correct, Gojo confirmed, his tone sharp with focus. But if he's physically manifesting, that means someone has been feeding a vessel all 20 fingers. That's not just dangerous, it's apocalyptic. Sukuna at full power is a threat that hasn't existed in this world for 1,000 years. Then we respond immediately, Yuji said, his gentle voice carrying absolute determination. People are suffering. That suffering must end, regardless of the threat's magnitude. Please lead the way, Fushiguro-san. The journey to Shibuya revealed devastation on a scale Yuji had never witnessed. Entire city blocks burned with cursed flames that ordinary water couldn't extinguish. Buildings collapsed under the weight of cursed energy manifestations. Civilians fled in panic while barriers prevented their complete escape, trapping them in a killing field designed to maximize suffering and death. Yuji's transparent world took in the scope immediately. Hundreds of cursed spirits ranging from grade 4 to special grade, coordinated in ways that suggested intelligent command. And at the center of it all, a cursed energy signature that eclipsed everything else combined. A presence so overwhelming that even perceiving it through his enhanced senses made his mark pulse with recognition. Ryomen Sukuna stood atop a demolished tower, his form exactly as ancient texts described. 4 arms covered in intricate tattoos, eyes that held the weight of 1,000 years of malevolence and power. His cursed energy alone distorted reality around him, space bending and twisting in response to his mere presence. So, Sukuna's voice echoed across the ruined cityscape. The modern era finally produces something interesting. Satoru Gojo, the 6 eyes wielder and limitless technique user. And his gaze locked onto Yuji with unsettling intensity. Someone I don't recognize. Someone whose cursed energy burns red like flames, whose presence carries echoes of something ancient. How delightful. The world provides me with worthy opponents immediately upon my return. Gojo stepped forward, his casual demeanor completely gone, replaced by the absolute focus of the strongest sorcerer in battle mode. Sukuna, I'll give you one chance to surrender peacefully. Seal yourself again and we'll work out terms. Refuse and we'll put you down permanently. Sukuna laughed, the sound carrying genuine amusement. Surrender? To you? To this era of weak sorcerers playing at power they don't understand? His 4 arms spread wide. I am Ryomen Sukuna, the king of curses, the disgraced one. I have destroyed armies, leveled cities, made the strongest of the Heian era kneel, and you think modern sorcerers can challenge me? Not sorcerers, Yuji said softly, stepping forward to stand beside Gojo. Us. 2 who understand what strength means, who use that strength to protect rather than destroy. Your reign of terror ends here, Sukuna. I will not allow you to harm these people. Sukuna's expression shifted to genuine interest as he studied Yuji more carefully. Fascinating. Your cursed energy is unlike anything in the modern era. It burns, consumes, purifies. And your eyes, they see everything, don't they? You perceive the world as it truly is, stripped of illusion and deception. What are you, child? What manner of sorcerer manifests such impossible abilities? I am Yuji Itadori, he replied with calm dignity, a jujutsu sorcerer dedicated to protecting people and ensuring no one suffers unnecessary death. Your existence represents suffering incarnate. Therefore, I will eliminate you, just as I have eliminated every other curse that threatened innocence. Bold words, Sukuna approved. Let us see if your strength matches your conviction. Show me, both of you. Show me what this modern era considers powerful. The battle began with Sukuna's movement, faster than most eyes could track, 4 arms executing simultaneous strikes that came from impossible angles. But Yuji's transparent world had already seen the attacks forming, had perceived the cursed energy flow that preceded motion, and his body responded with the instincts of someone who had spent lifetimes fighting. Dance of the Fire God, first form. Unknowing Fire met Sukuna's opening assault with a thrust so precise that it slipped between the King of Curse's guard, the crimson blade of cursed energy leaving a searing line across Sukuna's chest. The wound didn't regenerate immediately. Yuji's red cursed energy prevented that, burning away the cursed energy that would normally heal such injuries instantly. Simultaneously, Gojo attacked from the opposite angle. Cursed technique reversal, red. The repulsive force struck Sukuna's side, driving him backward even as the King of Curses twisted midair to avoid the full impact. Sukuna's 4 arms moved independently, 2 blocking Yuji's follow-up strike while the other 2 countered Gojo's advance with cursed energy slashes that carved through buildings like paper. Good. Sukuna's grin widened as he landed, his wound from Yuji's attack slowly smoking but not healing. You actually damaged me, and you, he addressed Gojo. Your technique is interesting. Space manipulation at its finest, but let me show you what true cursed technique mastery looks like. Cleave. Dismantle. The air itself seemed to split as Sukuna's slashing attacks manifested, invisible blades of cursed energy that adjusted to their target's durability automatically, cutting exactly as deeply as needed to destroy. The attacks came from every direction simultaneously, a killing field that would overwhelm any normal defense. But Gojo's infinity stopped them completely, the slashes unable to reach him as space itself bent around his technique. And Yuji's transparent world saw each slash forming, his body flowing like water through the attacks with movements that seemed choreographed but were pure instinct. Second form, clear blue sky. A vertical spinning slash created a barrier of red cursed energy that not only deflected Sukuna's attacks but sent them rebounding back at their creator. Sukuna dodged casually, his expression showing increasing interest rather than concern. You're coordinating without speaking, Sukuna observed. Gojo attacks high, you attack low. He focuses on defense and distraction while you aim for critical damage. You've fought together before, developed instinctive teamwork. Impressive. Most sorcerers lack such coordination even after years of partnership. We understand what must be done, Yuji said softly, already moving into his next form. And we understand that defeating you requires unity of purpose. Please forgive us for what we must do, Sukuna. Your existence brings suffering. We will end that suffering here. Polite even in battle, Sukuna laughed. I haven't encountered someone like you in centuries. Very well. Let me respond with appropriate force. Domain expansion. Malevolent shrine. Reality twisted as Sukuna's domain manifested. A grotesque Buddhist shrine surrounded by a sea of blood and bones, its very existence imposing his cursed technique across the space. Within this domain, Dismantle and Cleave activated automatically against anything with cursed energy, an unavoidable barrage that shredded anything within range. But Gojo responded immediately. Domain expansion, unlimited void. The 2 domains clashed, reality screaming as incompatible spaces tried to occupy the same area. Gojo's infinite information versus Sukuna's infinite slashing, 2 of the most powerful domains in existence canceling each other out through sheer overwhelming force, which left Yuji free to attack. His selfless state meant domain techniques that targeted based on cursed energy presence had difficulty locking onto him. His transparent world saw the structure of both domains, the flow of cursed energy maintaining them, the weak points where they intersected and created gaps in coverage. Third form, Raging Sun. Twin horizontal slashes, each burning hotter than the sun's surface, struck the point where both domains intersected. The red cursed energy didn't just damage, it purified, burning away the cursed energy that maintained domain structures. Both domains flickered, their stability compromised by Yuji's intervention. Sukuna's eyes widened with genuine surprise as his domain collapsed first, Gojo's unlimited void having proven slightly more stable in the clash. You attacked not me, but the domain itself. And that cursed energy of yours, it destroys cursed energy. What a perfect counter to domains. Gojo capitalized immediately, dismissing his own domain before it could cause collateral damage. Blue. The attractive force pulled Sukuna directly toward where Yuji had positioned himself, and the gentle sorcerer was ready. Fourth form, Burning Bones Summer Sun. A circular slash timed perfectly with Sukuna's forced movement. The King of Curses brought all four arms up to block, but the red cursed energy cut through his defense, carving deep wounds across his forearms. For the first time, Sukuna's expression showed pain rather than amusement. You're stronger than I anticipated, Sukuna admitted, landing and putting distance between himself and both opponents. His wounds were healing now, but slowly, the red cursed energy continued burning even after the initial strikes, interfering with regeneration. Most sorcerers I can kill in seconds, but you two, you might actually give me a proper fight. We will do more than that, Yuji said quietly, his cursed energy flaring around him like a crimson bonfire. We will ensure you never threaten anyone again. That is our promise as protectors of this world. Sukuna's grin returned, but now it carried respect alongside malevolence. Then come, show me what the strongest of this era can accomplish. Make me feel something beyond boredom for the first time in centuries. The battle escalated into pure chaos. Sukuna moved with speed that would make most special-grade sorcerers look stationary, his forearms executing combinations that attacked from angles that shouldn't be geometrically possible. Each strike carried enough cursed energy to level buildings. Each technique was refined through centuries of combat experience. But Gojo matched him, movement for movement, infinity preventing direct damage while blue and red created push-pull dynamics that disrupted Sukuna's positioning. And Yuji flowed through the combat like flames through air, his transparent world predicting Sukuna's attacks before they manifested, his sun-breathing forms countering with techniques that Sukuna had never encountered before. Fifth form, Setting Sun Transformation. Multiple horizontal slashes from defensive position, Yuji's blade meeting Sukuna's four-armed assault and not just blocking, but redirecting, using Sukuna's own force against him. The King of Curses found his strikes glancing off target, his immense power turned aside through perfect technique. Simultaneously, Gojo compressed cursed energy into his palm. Red. The repulsive blast hit Sukuna's side again, this time with enough force to send him crashing through 3 buildings. But the King of Curses twisted mid-flight, using the momentum to launch himself into a spinning attack that sent cursed energy slashes in all directions, an area of effect assault designed to force his opponents onto the defensive. Sixth form, Solar Heat Haze. Yuji's technique created multiple simultaneous strikes that intercepted every incoming slash, red cursed energy meeting Sukuna's techniques and burning them away before they could reach civilians or remaining structures. The interception was perfect, not a single attack getting through Yuji's defensive pattern. You protect them even in the middle of battle, Sukuna observed, landing in the ruins of Shibuya's commercial district. Every move you make considers civilian safety. Every technique aims to minimize collateral damage. That's your weakness. You care. I can use that. Caring is not weakness, Yuji replied gently, moving to position himself between Sukuna and a group of trapped civilians. It is purpose. Strength without purpose to protect is merely violence. I will not allow you to harm these people. Then watch as I do exactly that. Sukuna's hands formed seals. Curse technique, flames. Massive jets of cursed fire erupted toward the civilians. Not the hottest flames Sukuna could produce, but designed to spread and consume, to force Yuji into impossible choices between offense and defense. But Yuji had already seen the technique forming through his transparent world, had perceived Sukuna's intention before the flames manifested. His response was instantaneous. Seventh form, Beneficent Radiance. A spiral slash that created a barrier of red cursed energy, not just blocking Sukuna's flames, but absorbing them, transmuting the malevolent cursed fire into harmless warmth that dissipated without touching the civilians. The technique's beauty lay in its purpose, designed specifically to protect through purification rather than destruction. Gojo used the moment to activate his most powerful offensive technique. Hollow Purple. The combination of blue's attraction and red's repulsion created purple, imaginary mass that erased anything it touched, deletion of existence itself. The technique struck Sukuna directly, and even the King of Curses couldn't completely ignore it. He dodged, but not quite fast enough. Purple clipped his shoulder, erasing a portion of his arm completely. For the first time, Sukuna's expression showed genuine anger rather than amusement. You dare! You actually damaged the King of Curses with your mongrel techniques. His remaining 3.5 arms spread wide, cursed energy surging to levels that made the air itself scream. No more playing. I'll show you my true power. The cursed energy that erupted from Sukuna was apocalyptic in scale. Reality bent around him, space distorting, time seeming to slow in his immediate vicinity. This was the power that had made him the King of Curses, the strength that had terrorized the Heian era, the malevolence that had required the combined efforts of all Jujutsu society to seal. Domain expansion, Malevolent Shrine. The domain manifested again, but this time Sukuna didn't create it as a closed space. Instead, he used an open domain, a technique so advanced that most sorcerers didn't believe it possible, projecting his domain into reality without creating a separate space. Within its range, his cleave and dismantle activated automatically, unavoidable, adjusting to their targets with perfect precision. The slashing attacks came from everywhere, invisible blades that couldn't be blocked or dodged through conventional means. Buildings that hadn't already been destroyed were carved into pieces, the ground itself splitting under the assault. This was elimination on an absolute scale, technique so refined that defense seemed impossible. Gojo's Infinity held, but the constant barrage of domain-enhanced attacks was taxing even for the Six Eyes wielder. Maintaining Infinity against an open domain required constant focus, continuous cursed energy expenditure that couldn't be sustained indefinitely. And Yuji, despite his transparent world and selfless state, found himself truly challenged for the first time in months. He could see the attacks coming, could perceive their angles and force, but they came from so many directions simultaneously that even his perfect perception struggled to track them all. Eighth form, Sunflower Thrust. Rapid, consecutive thrusts, Yuji's blade moving faster than I could follow, intercepting the invisible slashes through pure speed and precision. But there were too many, attacking too quickly, and even his legendary speed couldn't counter them all. A slash got through, carving across his shoulder. Then another hit his leg. Small wounds, but wounds nonetheless, proof that Sukuna's domain technique could damage even him. You're struggling! Sukuna laughed triumphantly. Even with those miraculous eyes, even with your impossible techniques, my domain is too much. This is the power that made me king. This is what true mastery looks like. Then we match your mastery with our own, Gojo said, his voice carrying absolute focus despite the strain of maintaining Infinity. Yuji, trust me, I'm going to drop Infinity for exactly 3 seconds. In that time, I need you to use your most powerful technique. Can you do that? I can, Yuji confirmed softly, understanding Gojo's plan immediately through their developed coordination. I will need those 3 seconds to properly execute the 13th form. Please trust in my ability to complete it. I've always trusted you, Gojo replied. We do this together or not at all. Ready? Ready, Yuji confirmed, now his cursed energy beginning to surge, red and gold flames erupting around him in preparation. Now, Gojo's Infinity dropped, and immediately Sukuna's domain slashes struck him from every angle. But Gojo had planned for this. He used blue to attract all the slashes toward himself, concentrating the attacks on his position, while simultaneously using red to push them away at the last possible moment, creating a chaotic maelstrom of forces that prevented the slashes from landing cleanly. It wouldn't hold for long. 3 seconds was all Yuji would get, but 3 seconds would be enough. Dance of the Fire God, 13th Form. The 13th form was not a single technique, but the continuous repetition of all 12 preceding forms, executed without pause, without rest, a constant assault that built upon itself until it became an unstoppable force. It was Yuji's ultimate technique, the culmination of every form, the perfect expression of the sun-breathing style translated into cursed technique. First form, Unknowing Fire, a thrust that struck Sukuna's center. Second form, Clear Blue Sky, a vertical slash that followed immediately. Third form, Raging Sun, twin horizontal cuts that gave no time to recover. Fourth form, Burning Bones, Summer Sun, a circular slash that maintained pressure. Fifth form, Setting Sun Transformation, multiple slashes from defensive position that prevented counterattack. Sixth form, Solar Heat Haze, simultaneous strikes from multiple angles that overwhelmed Sukuna's four-armed defense. Seventh form, Beneficent Radiance, a spiral attack that broke through his guard. Eighth form, Sunflower Thrust, rapid consecutive thrusts that drove him backward. Ninth form, Dragon Sun Halo Head Dance, a flowing attack that wove through his desperate defenses. 10th form, Firewheel, a vertical circular slash that struck from above. 11th form, Fake Rainbow, an illusory technique that created openings in Sukuna's awareness. 12th form, Flame Dance, two consecutive strikes, each building on the previous form's momentum. And then, without pause, Yuji began again. First form flowing into second, into third, into fourth, an unending chain of techniques that gave Sukuna no opportunity to counter, no chance to activate his domain, no moment to execute his devastating slashing attacks. Each form burned with red cursed energy that prevented regeneration. Each strike carved deeper wounds. Each technique pushed the King of Curses further onto the defensive. Sukuna's expression transformed from triumph to shock to something approaching fear, as Yuji's assault continued without cessation. The gentle sorcerer's face remained calm, his breathing controlled, but his strikes carried the weight of absolute conviction. This would end here with Sukuna's defeat, or not at all. 10 repetitions, 20, 30. Yuji's body moved beyond the limits of human endurance, pushed by will and purpose rather than physical capability. The 13th form was designed to continue until the user could no longer move, and Yuji's determination meant that moment was far, far away. Sukuna tried desperately to reestablish his domain, to create distance to mount any kind of effective defense. But Yuji's continuous assault left no opening. The King of Curses, who had terrorized an entire era, found himself completely overwhelmed by a 16-year-old sorcerer whose techniques he couldn't predict, whose strength he couldn't match, whose determination he couldn't break. Stop! Sukuna actually retreated, genuine desperation in his voice. What are you? This technique. It's impossible. No sorcerer can maintain this level of assault. You should be exhausted. I will continue, Yuji said softly, his voice carrying across the ruined city, even as his blade never stopped moving. Until you can no longer threaten anyone. That is my purpose. That is my promise. Please forgive me for causing you pain, but I cannot allow you to exist. Gojo's infinity reactivated as the 3-second window closed, but the damage was done. Sukuna had been driven out of his domain, forced to abandon his strongest technique just to survive Yuji's unrelenting assault. The King of Curses was wounded, bleeding from dozens of cuts that refused to heal completely, his forearms barely keeping pace with Yuji's continuing attack. My turn, Gojo said, his voice carrying grim satisfaction. You made the mistake of showing weakness. Against us, that's fatal. Domain expansion, unlimited void. The domain manifested again, but this time Sukuna couldn't counter with his own domain. Yuji's assault prevented him from forming the necessary seals, from concentrating the cursed energy required. Sukuna was caught within unlimited void, infinite information flooding his mind, paralyzing him completely. Finish it, Gojo said to Yuji. End this forever. Yuji's expression carried deep melancholy as he raised his blade one final time. You were born from humanity's darkest emotions, Sukuna. You existed in malevolence and brought suffering wherever you went. I understand that this was your nature, that you could not be other than what you were. But I cannot allow that nature to continue harming innocents. Please rest now. Your existence ends here. Dance of the Fire God, Hinokami Kagura, Sunflower Strike. The final thrust combined all the accumulated force of the 13th form's repetitions, every technique building toward this single perfect strike. The blade of red, cursed energy pierced Sukuna's chest, directly through his heart, and the purifying flames erupted outward from the wound. Sukuna's eyes widened in his final moments, not with hatred, but with something approaching respect. Impossible. Defeated by modern sorcerers. How? Fitting. His form began dissolving, the cursed energy that composed his being burning away under Yuji's purifying flames. "What is your name again?" "Yuji Itadori," he replied gently, maintaining the thrust until Sukuna had completely dissipated. "Please forgive me, and please rest peacefully." The King of Curses dissolved entirely, his cursed energy scattering and fading. The presence that had dominated the Heian era finally eliminated from existence. Gojo's domain collapsed as there was nothing left to contain, and silence fell over Shibuya's ruins. Yuji stood motionless for a long moment, his blade still extended, his expression carrying the weight of what he had just accomplished. He had eliminated Ryomen Sukuna, the King of Curses, the most powerful curse user in history, and yet he felt no triumph, no pride, only sadness that such violence had been necessary. "We did it," Gojo said quietly, approaching and placing a hand on Yuji's shoulder. "We actually did it. Together, we eliminated a threat that has haunted Jujutsu society for 1,000 years. You understand what this means?" "It means people are safe," Yuji replied softly, dismissing his cursed energy blade. "That is all that matters. The rest is simply aftermath." "The aftermath is going to be massive," Gojo said, looking around at the devastation. "But right now, I just want to acknowledge what you did. That 13th form, I've never seen anything like it. Where did you learn that?" "I have always known it," Yuji said, his hand unconsciously touching the mark on his forehead. "These techniques exist within me as naturally as breathing, but I am grateful you trusted me to execute it, Gojo-san. Without your defense providing the opening, I could not have completed the form." "We're partners," Gojo reminded him with a gentle smile. "The strongest, working together. That's what made this possible, not individual power, but coordination between equals. Remember that, Yuji. You're not alone in this." Before Yuji could respond, Todo's voice boomed across the ruins. "Brother!" The large sorcerer was sprinting toward them, tears streaming down his face. "I witnessed everything. That final assault, it was magnificent. You and Gojo-sensei working in perfect coordination, eliminating the King of Curses himself. This is the greatest moment in Jujutsu history." "Todo-san," Yuji said with quiet warmth as his best friend reached them. "I am glad you are unharmed. Were there casualties among the other sorcerers?" "Injuries, but no deaths," Todo reported, pulling Yuji into a crushing hug that would have broken ribs if not for cursed energy reinforcement. "Thanks to you and Gojo-sensei drawing Sukuna's attention, the rest of us could evacuate civilians and handle the smaller curses. You saved everyone, brother. Everyone." Megumi and Nobara arrived moments later, both showing signs of intense combat, but alive and functional. Megumi's expression carried profound relief, while Nobara was openly crying. "You idiot!" Nobara shouted, punching Yuji's arm with enough force to make a normal person stagger. Yuji didn't move. "We thought you were going to die, fighting Sukuna with just you and Gojo-sensei? That's insane!" "I apologize for causing worry," Yuji said gently, his soft-spoken nature unchanged despite having just fought the battle of his life. "But I could not allow Sukuna to continue threatening people. That purpose outweighed the risk to myself." "You always say things like that," Megumi muttered, but his relief was obvious. "One of these days, your selflessness is going to get you actually killed." "Perhaps," Yuji acknowledged, "but I would rather die protecting others than live having failed to try. That is simply who I am." The aftermath of Sukuna's elimination rippled through Jujutsu society like an earthquake. The higher-ups, who had doubted Yuji and Gojo's ability to work together effectively, found themselves forced to acknowledge that their two strongest sorcerers had accomplished what entire generations had failed to achieve: the permanent elimination of the King of Curses. Emergency meetings were called, protocols rewritten, entire hierarchies restructured to account for the fact that the two most powerful individuals in Jujutsu society were essentially untouchable now. No one could challenge their authority, their decisions, their autonomy. They had proven themselves beyond any doubt. But for Yuji, the political maneuvering and social restructuring felt distant, irrelevant. He had fulfilled his duty, protected people, eliminated a threat. The recognition meant nothing compared to the quiet satisfaction of knowing that no one would die because of Sukuna now. 1 week after the battle, as Tokyo began rebuilding and Jujutsu Society adjusted to its new reality, Yuji found himself once again on Tokyo Jujutsu High's rooftop at dawn, the familiar spot where he contemplated purpose, where he processed the weight of his actions, where he found peace in the quiet moments between missions. Yuji? He turned to find someone unexpected, a young woman with shoulder-length hair and a gentle expression that carried nervousness and determination in equal measure. Someone he recognized but hadn't seen since middle school. "Ozawa-san," he said with quiet surprise, his formal politeness automatic. "I did not expect to see you here. How did you find me?" Yuko Ozawa took a breath, clearly gathering courage. I've been following news about Jujutsu sorcerers after what happened in Shibuya after seeing your name in reports. I realized you were the same Yuji from middle school, the boy who was always kind, always polite, always helping others." She stepped closer, her hands clasped nervously. "I came here because I needed to know if you were okay, if that gentle person I remembered had survived becoming whatever you've become." Yuji's expression softened with melancholy understanding. "I am still that person, Ozawa-san. My strength has grown, my responsibilities have increased, but my purpose remains unchanged. I help people. I protect those who cannot protect themselves. That is who I was and who I will always be." "I know," Yuko said, her nervousness fading slightly. "I saw footage of the Sukuna fight. Most people watched and saw power, saw destruction, saw the strongest sorcerers eliminating a threat. But I watched your face during the battle. You looked sad, Yuji. Even while fighting, even while winning, you looked like your heart was breaking." "Because it was," Yuji admitted quietly. "Sukuna was evil, yes. He caused immeasurable suffering and had to be stopped. But he was also a being forced into existence by humanity's darkness, unable to be anything other than what he was. His elimination was necessary, but that necessity does not make it less tragic. All suffering deserves recognition, even the suffering of those we must oppose." Yuko's eyes glistened with emotion. "That's exactly the thing you would say. That's the Yuji I remember. Someone who sees the humanity in everything, who carries the weight of the world but never complains about it." She took another step closer. "I've thought about you since middle school, wondered what happened to you, hoped you were happy, and now I find out you've become this legendary sorcerer. But you're still the same gentle person underneath. That's incredible." "You are too kind," Yuji said softly, though something in his expression suggested her words touched him deeply. "I am simply doing what anyone with my abilities should do. There is nothing incredible about fulfilling basic responsibility." "That humility is part of what makes you special," Yuko insisted, her voice growing stronger with conviction. "Most people with your power would become arrogant, would see themselves as above others. But you don't. You see your strength as a tool for helping people, not as proof of superiority. That's rare, Yuji. That's precious." Yuji was quiet for a moment, his amber eyes studying Yuko with his transparent world active. He saw not just her physical form, but the sincerity in her cursed energy, the genuine care in her presence, the courage it had taken to come here and speak these words. And something in him, something that had been locked away beneath duty and purpose and melancholic acceptance of his role, stirred in response. "Why did you really come here, Ozawa-san?" he asked gently. "Not just to check on me, I think. There's something else you wish to say." Yuko's courage nearly failed, but she held his gaze. "Because I've carried feelings for you since middle school. Because seeing what you've become, not just strong but good, genuinely good in ways most people never achieve, made those feelings stronger. Because I needed you to know that someone sees you not as a weapon or a tool or the strongest sorcerer, but as Yuji. Just Yuji, the kind boy who helped me carry books and smiled like sunshine." The confession hung in the morning air, vulnerable and honest and terrifying in its openness. Yuji's expression showed surprise, then something softer, a warmth that had been absent from his features for months, genuine emotion breaking through the melancholic calm he maintained. "I do not know what to say," he admitted with characteristic honesty. "I have not thought about such things, about connections beyond friendship and duty, My life has been consumed by purpose, by the need to help others, by the responsibility my strength carries. Romance seemed distant, irrelevant compared to the immediate needs around me. It doesn't have to be, Yuko said softly. You can be strong and protect people and still have personal happiness. You can fulfill your purpose and also live, Yuji. Actually live, not just exist between missions. Her words struck something deep within him, resonating with the questions he had been asking himself since enrollment. What was his purpose beyond being strong? What meaning existed beyond eliminating curses and protecting civilians? Could someone like him, someone carrying the weight of overwhelming power and responsibility, find happiness in simple human connection? I would like to explore that possibility, he said quietly, his formal speech softening slightly. If you would be patient with me, Ozawa-san, I am uncertain how to navigate such relationships. My experience is limited to combat and duty. Personal connection of this nature is unfamiliar territory. Then we learn together, Yuko said, her smile brightening the rooftop like dawn. No pressure, no expectations beyond spending time together and seeing where it leads. Just two people getting to know each other. Can we do that? I would like that very much, Yuji confirmed, and his rare smile, gentle, warm, carrying the full weight of his sincere nature, transformed his expression from melancholic to genuinely hopeful. Thank you, Ozawa-san, for seeing me as more than just a sorcerer, for recognizing that beneath the strength, I am still simply Yuji. That recognition means more than you might realize. Call me Yuko, she said softly, and thank you for giving this a chance. I promise I won't interfere with your duties or make things complicated. I just want to be part of your life, whatever form that takes. Then, please call me Yuji, he replied with quiet warmth. And please know that having you in my life is not a complication, but a gift. I look forward to learning what happiness beyond duty might feel like. They stood together on the rooftop as the sun rose fully over Tokyo, two people from different worlds, one civilian, one sorcerer, finding unexpected connection in the aftermath of apocalyptic battle. It was a beginning, fragile and uncertain, but genuine in ways that transcended the supernatural chaos that had defined Yuji's recent existence. For the first time since his grandfather's death, Yuji felt something beyond purpose and duty stirring in his heart. The possibility of personal happiness, of connection that existed for its own sake rather than strategic benefit, of living rather than simply existing between missions. It was terrifying and wonderful in equal measure. The months following Sukuna's defeat brought changes both expected and surprising. Jujutsu Society reorganized itself around the reality that its two strongest sorcerers were essentially autonomous, answerable to no authority except their own judgment. Yuji and Gojo became partners in the truest sense, coordinating major operations, mentoring the next generation, establishing new protocols that prioritized protection over politics. But more personally, more importantly for Yuji's development as a complete person rather than just a weapon, his relationship with Yuko deepened steadily. They spent time together whenever his missions allowed, quiet dinners where she listened to his contemplations about purpose and meaning, walks through Tokyo where he showed her the beauty his transparent world revealed in ordinary moments, conversations that ranged from philosophy to simple everyday pleasures. Yuko brought normalcy to his life, reminded him that existence encompassed more than combat and duty. And gradually, tentatively, Yuji learned what it meant to be not just strong, but happy. Todo, predictably, had opinions about this development. "Brother," he announced during one training session, 6 months into Yuji's relationship with Yuko, "I have observed your courtship with great interest. You treat her with such gentleness, such respect, such consideration. It is beautiful to witness. But tell me, have you told her you love her? Such feelings should be expressed clearly." "I am uncertain what love feels like," Yuji admitted quietly, his strikes against the training dummy perfectly controlled despite the conversation. "My experience with such emotions is limited. How does one distinguish love from deep affection and care?" "You just know, brother," Todo insisted, though his expression showed understanding of Yuji's confusion. "But if you need guidance, love is when her happiness becomes as important as your duty, when thoughts of her bring warmth to your heart even in the darkest moments, when you can imagine a future that includes more than just missions and battles, but her smile and her presence, and building something together. Yuji paused mid-strike, his amber eyes distant as he considered Todo's words, and realized with quiet certainty that he felt all those things. That Yuko's smile had become a reason to survive dangerous missions, that planning dates had become as important as planning combat strategies, that he could imagine a future beyond eliminating curses, a future with her. "I believe I do love her," he said softly, the admission carrying weight and vulnerability. "But I am uncertain how to express such feelings properly. What if my words are inadequate? What if I damage what we have built through clumsy expression?" "Brother," Tudu said with surprising gentleness, "you have faced the King of Curses without hesitation. You have eliminated special grade threats with calm determination. You have stood as one of the 2 strongest sorcerers in the world without arrogance or fear, but expressing love to one woman terrifies you. That is actually very endearing. Just be yourself, Yuji. That's all she wants. The genuine you, speaking from the heart." The conversation stayed with Yuji through the following days, building toward a moment that felt inevitable, but terrifying nonetheless. Finally, during a quiet evening walk through a park near Tokyo Jujutsu High, with cherry blossoms drifting through air that his transparent world revealed in exquisite detail, Yuji found his courage. "Yuko," he said softly, stopping beneath a particularly beautiful tree whose blossoms glowed pink in the evening light. "There is something I need to tell you, something I have been uncertain how to express, but which I can no longer keep inside." She turned to him, her expression showing curiosity mixed with gentle anticipation. "What is it, Yuji?" He took a breath, his formal speech patterns softening into something more personal, more vulnerable. "Since you appeared on that rooftop, you have changed my existence in ways I did not know were possible. You have shown me that life encompasses more than duty and strength, that personal happiness is not selfishness but a vital part of being complete. Your presence has brought warmth to days that were previously only purposeful. And I have come to love you, Yuko, deeply and genuinely. I wanted you to know this, even though I am uncertain what comes next, even though my life remains complicated and dangerous. But regardless of those complications, my feelings are real." Yuko's eyes filled with tears, but her smile was radiant. "I love you too, Yuji. I've loved you for so long, and hearing you say it, it means everything. And I don't care about complications or danger. I care about you, about this gentle, powerful, impossibly kind person who sees beauty in everything and carries the weight of the world without complaint. That's who I love. That's who I want to be with." She kissed him then, gently, and Yuji felt something shift in his very soul. Not power or strength or technique, but completion. As if a piece of himself that had been missing his entire life had finally fallen into place. This was what his grandfather had meant about helping people find proper ends, about ensuring no one died alone or unfulfilled. This connection, this love, this possibility of building something beyond duty. When they separated, Yuji's expression carried a peace it had never shown before. Not just calm or melancholic acceptance, but genuine contentment. "Thank you," he whispered, "for seeing me, for loving me despite everything, for giving me a reason to be more than just strong." "You were always more than just strong," Yuko replied, her hand finding his. "I just helped you see it." They walked together through the cherry blossoms, 2 people building something beautiful in the aftermath of apocalyptic conflict, finding love in the space between battles, creating meaning beyond supernatural chaos. And for Yuji Itadori, the boy who had been born with impossible power and endless duty, who had eliminated the King of Curses and become a pillar of Jujutsu society, this simple human connection meant more than any victory or achievement. This was what it meant to truly live. 2 years passed with surprising swiftness. Yuji continued his duties as a special grade sorcerer, working alongside Gojo to maintain peace and eliminate threats. But now those duties were balanced with personal life, dinners with Yuko, holidays spent away from Jujutsu society, quiet moments that reminded him why he fought so hard to protect the world. Megumi and Nobara had graduated to becoming accomplished sorcerers in their own right, learning from Yuji's example not just in combat, but in maintaining humanity despite supernatural power. Todo had become an instructor at Kyoto School, teaching the next generation while remaining Yuji's closest friend and brother in spirit. And through it all, Yuko remained constant, a source of warmth and normalcy, a reminder that life encompassed more than elimination of curses, a partner who understood both his strength and his gentleness. It was during the cherry blossom season, 3 years after they had first begun dating, that Yuji brought Yuko back to the park where he had first confessed his love. The evening was warm, the blossoms drifting through air in patterns his transparent world revealed as exquisitely beautiful, and his heart carried both nervousness and absolute certainty about what he was about to do. "Yuko," he said softly, taking her hands in his as they stood beneath the same tree where they had shared their first kiss. "These 3 years with you have been the happiest of my existence. You have taught me what it means to live rather than simply fulfill duty. You have shown me that strength and gentleness can coexist, that power and love are not contradictory. You have made me not just a better sorcerer, but a more complete person." He knelt then, producing a simple ring, elegant in its restraint, carrying the same aesthetic as his approach to everything else. "Would you honor me by becoming my wife? By building a future together that encompasses not just my duties, but our shared happiness? I know my life is complicated and dangerous, but I promise to always come home to you, to always make you a priority equal to any mission. Please, Yuko, will you marry me?" Yuko was crying openly now, her hands shaking in his. "Yes, yes, of course yes. I would be honored to be your wife, Yuji, to build that future together, to face whatever complications come, to be your partner in every sense. Yes." The ring slipped onto her finger perfectly, and Yuji rose to embrace her, his expression showing a joy so pure and unguarded that anyone watching would barely recognize the legendary Flameblade sorcerer in this gentle man holding his fiancée like she was the most precious thing in existence. "Thank you," he whispered into her hair, "for choosing me despite everything, for seeing beyond the strength to the person underneath, for giving me a reason to be not just powerful, but happy. I will spend my life making you never regret this choice." "I could never regret it," Yuko replied, her voice muffled against his shoulder. "You're the best person I know, Yuji. The gentlest, kindest, most thoughtful person. And you're mine. That's everything I could ever want." They stood together as cherry blossoms fell around them like pink snow, two people who had found each other in the aftermath of supernatural chaos, building something beautiful and human and real in a world of curses and combat. And in his soul, in the place where ancient memories stirred without fully surfacing, something that had been Yoriichi Tsugikuni felt profound satisfaction. This love, this connection, this possibility of family and happiness, these were the things that had been denied to him in his original existence. But through Yuji, through this reincarnation that carried his power and essence, those denied joys could finally be experienced. The wedding took place 6 months later. A small ceremony attended by close friends and colleagues. Gojo served as best man, giving a speech that managed to be simultaneously heartfelt and inappropriate, making everyone laugh while genuinely honoring Yuji's journey. Tudo cried throughout the entire ceremony, his tears of joy flowing freely as he witnessed his brother achieving happiness beyond combat. Megumi and Nobara stood as witnesses, both grown into accomplished sorcerers who had learned as much about life as about technique from their former teammate. Other sorcerers attended, people whose lives Yuji had saved, students he had mentored, colleagues who had fought beside him. The ceremony was simple but beautiful, reflecting Yuji's personality in every detail. And when he and Yuko exchanged vows, speaking promises of love and partnership and building a future together, there was not a dry eye in attendance, because everyone present understood what this meant, that even the strongest, even those who carried the weight of protecting entire populations, deserved personal happiness, that duty and love could coexist, that strength and gentleness were not contradictory. "I promise to honor you," Yuji said softly, his hands holding Yuko's as they stood before their gathered friends, "to cherish you, to make your happiness as important as any mission. You have given me joy I did not know was possible. I promise to spend my life returning that gift, to be not just a husband, but a true partner, to build with you a future that encompasses more than duty and strength, but genuine happiness. This I promise, Yuko, with all that I am." I promise to love you, Yuko replied, her voice steady despite tears, to support you in your duties without losing sight of us. To remind you that you are more than just the strongest, that you are Yuji, gentle, kind, impossibly thoughtful. To build that future with you, whatever form it takes, to be your sanctuary in a dangerous world. This I promise, Yuji, with all my heart. The officiant pronounced them married, and when Yuji kissed his wife, the assembled sorcerers erupted in applause and cheers, because this was more than just a wedding. It was proof that even in the darkest world, even with the most dangerous duties, happiness was possible. Love was possible. Life beyond combat was possible. The reception that followed was joyful chaos, with Todo giving another tearful speech about brotherhood and finding love, Gojo demonstrating why he should never be given access to a microphone and alcohol simultaneously, and countless sorcerers celebrating not just a wedding but a symbol of hope. But Yuji's favorite moment came later, during a quiet interlude, when he and Yuko stepped outside for fresh air, leaving the party behind. They stood together in the evening, cool, her head on his shoulder, his arms around her, simply existing in each other's presence. "Are you happy?" Yuko asked softly. "I am more than happy," Yuji replied with quiet certainty. "I am complete. You have given me something I did not know I was missing. Purpose beyond duty, meaning beyond strength, connection that exists for its own sake rather than strategic benefit. Thank you, Yuko, for everything." "Thank you for choosing me," she replied, turning to look up at him. "For seeing me as someone worthy of the strongest sorcerer's love, for being not just powerful but good, for being exactly who you are." They kissed again, gentle and tender, and in that moment Yuji understood what his grandfather had been trying to teach him all those years ago. Life was not about grand achievements or overwhelming power. It was about connections like this. Simple, human, real. It was about ensuring that everyone, including himself, had the chance to live fully before death came. And he had found that. Against all odds, despite his overwhelming strength and dangerous duties, he had found genuine happiness with someone who saw him as more than a weapon or a tool or the strongest. He had found love. 5 years passed in domestic bliss interspersed with continuing duties. Yuji remained a special grade sorcerer, still partnering with Gojo on major threats, still serving as a mentor and protector. But now he had something to return to after missions. A home with Yuko, a life that encompassed more than just eliminating curses. And then, inevitably, wonderfully, their family grew. Their first child, a daughter with Yuko's gentle features and Yuji's amber eyes, was born on a spring morning when cherry blossoms were blooming across Tokyo. Yuji held her with trembling hands, this tiny, perfect being who depended on him completely, and felt something shift in his very soul. "She's beautiful," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion as tears streamed down his face. "Perfect, innocent, and I will protect her with everything I am. I will ensure she grows up safe, happy, able to live fully. This I promise." "I know you will," Yuko said softly from the hospital bed, exhausted but radiant. "You'll be an amazing father, Yuji, just like you're an amazing husband and an amazing sorcerer. Our daughter is so lucky to have you." They named her Ki, a gentle name that carried hopes for a kind heart and peaceful life. And as Yuji looked at his daughter, at this perfect representation of his and Yuko's love made manifest, he understood in ways he never had before what it meant to have something worth protecting beyond abstract duty. This was personal. This was his child, his family, his reason for ensuring the world remained safe. Every curse he eliminated, every threat he neutralized, every mission he completed, all of it took on new meaning in light of this tiny life depending on him. The mark on his forehead, which had pulsed during major battles and moments of significance, glowed with unusual warmth as he held Ki. And in his soul, those ancient memories that had stirred throughout his life surfaced slightly clearer than ever before. A voice ancient and powerful, carrying the weight of lifetimes. Family. This is what I fought for, what I could never. Thank you for giving me this experience, even if only through your life. Yuji didn't fully understand the words or their origin, didn't know that he carried Yoriichi Tsugikuni's reincarnated soul, but he felt the profound satisfaction in that ancient presence, the sense of something long denied finally being fulfilled. "I will protect her," he said softly to his daughter, to his wife, to the universe itself. I will ensure she and all children can grow up safe, happy, able to live full lives before facing death. This is my purpose, not just strength, but using that strength to enable this, to make this possible. Ki opened her eyes, amber like her father's, and Yuji felt his heart swell with love so overwhelming that for a moment he couldn't breathe. This was what it meant to truly live. This was meaning beyond any technique or power. This was everything. Their family grew over the next years. A son named Tanjiro, born 2 years after Kie, whose gentle nature and serious demeanor reminded Yuji of himself. And 3 years after that, twin daughters, Hanako and Takeo, who brought chaos and joy in equal measure to their household. Yuji adapted to fatherhood with the same dedication he brought to everything else. He taught his children gently but firmly, showing them the importance of helping others, of using their abilities. All 4 had inherited some degree of cursed energy sensitivity to protect rather than harm. He told them stories not of his battles, but of the people he had saved, emphasizing that strength existed to serve rather than dominate. And through it all, Yuko remained his partner and anchor, the one who kept him grounded when duties threatened to overwhelm, who reminded him that personal happiness was not selfishness, but necessary fuel for continuing his work. Tudo visited frequently, crying with joy every time he saw his brother's growing family, insisting the children call him Uncle Toto, and filling their house with his booming enthusiasm. Megumi and Nobara were honorary aunt and uncle, bringing gifts and telling sanitized, somewhat versions of their adventures with Yuji. Gojo was the children's favorite visitor, using his techniques to create spectacular illusions and generally being a terrible influence in the best possible way. The children grew surrounded by love and protection, by parents who taught them kindness and strength in equal measure, by an extended family of powerful sorcerers who all understood that these 4 young lives represented hope for the future. One evening, when Ki was 10 and the twins were 5, the whole family gathered in their living room, Yuji on the floor surrounded by children clamoring for stories, Yuko watching from the couch with a smile that spoke of deep contentment. "Papa," Ki asked with her characteristic seriousness, "why do you fight curses? Is it just your job, or is it something more?" Yuji considered the question carefully, his gentle nature making him thoughtful about how to explain complex concepts to children. "I fight curses because people deserve to live full lives without fear. Because children like you and your siblings should be able to grow up safe and happy. Because strength without purpose to protect is merely violence, and I choose to use my strength for good." Does that make sense? "So you fight for us?" Tanjiro asked, his young face showing understanding beyond his years. "I fight for everyone," Yuji corrected softly. "But yes, especially for you. You 4 are my most precious treasures, and I will ensure the world is safe enough for you to grow, to discover who you want to be, to live fully before facing death. That is my promise to you as your father." "We love you, Papa," the twins chorused, climbing into his lap. "You're the best papa in the whole world." "I love you too," Yuji replied, his voice thick with emotion. "All of you, more than I can express in words. You are my joy, my purpose, my reason for being not just strong but happy. Never forget that." He looked at Yuko then, their eyes meeting across the room, and the understanding that passed between them encompassed everything. The journey they had traveled together, the life they had built, the family they had created. All the battles, all the danger, all the overwhelming power and responsibility, it all meant something because of this. Because of them. This was Yuji Itadori's happy ending, not glory or recognition or being the strongest, though he was, but this simple domestic joy, a wife who loved him, children who looked at him with adoration and trust, a home filled with warmth and laughter and the kind of meaning that transcended any supernatural achievement. And in his soul, in the place where Yoriichi Tsugikuni's essence resided without Yuji's conscious knowledge, that ancient warrior finally found peace. The family he had been denied, the domestic happiness that had been impossible in his original existence, the joy of watching children grow in safety, all of it was experienced through Yuji. The cycle was complete. The reincarnation had fulfilled not just the original's power, but his dreams, his hopes, his deepest wishes. Through Yuji, Yoriichi had finally achieved the one thing strength alone could never provide, a family to protect, to love, to give meaning to existence beyond combat. That night, after the children were asleep and Yuko had retired, Yuji stood alone in his home's garden, looking up at stars his transparent world revealed in exquisite detail. The mark on his forehead glowed faintly, and for just a moment he thought he heard that ancient voice one final time. Thank you, Yuji Itadori, for living the life I could not, for achieving the happiness I was denied, for showing me through your existence that strength alone is not enough, that love, family, connection, these are what give meaning to power. Thank you for being my reincarnation and for being yourself. For me, you are my pride. The words faded, but their warmth remained, and Yuji understood, not consciously, not with full knowledge, but with intuitive certainty, that he was more than just himself, that some ancient legacy lived within him, some warrior's essence that had found through him the completion it had sought for lifetimes. I will continue honoring that legacy, he whispered to the stars, to the universe, to whatever had granted him these impossible abilities. I will continue using this strength to protect, to help, to ensure that others can achieve the happiness I have found. That is my promise, not just as Yuji Itadori, but as whoever I truly am, whatever purpose I was born to fulfill. The stars seemed to shimmer in response, and Yuji felt profound peace settle over him. He was the strongest, yes. He was a legendary sorcerer, a pillar of Jujutsu society, someone whose name would be remembered for generations. But more importantly, more meaningfully, he was a husband to Yuko, a father to Ki and Tanjiro and Hanako and Takeo, a friend to Todo and Megumi and Nobara and Gojo. He was simply Yuji, and that was enough. Years continued passing in comfortable rhythm. Yuji's children grew, each developing their own personalities and strengths. Ki showed promise as a jujutsu sorcerer, but was more interested in healing techniques than combat. Tanjiro had his father's gentle nature and growing skill with cursed energy manipulation. The twins were chaos incarnate, but carried hearts of gold beneath their mischievous exteriors. Yuji guided them patiently, never forcing them into following his path, always emphasizing that their choices mattered more than inherited abilities. He taught them the forms his body knew instinctively, showing them the beauty in perfect technique, but never demanded they pursue combat if their hearts led elsewhere. And through it all, he and Yuko remained deeply in love, their relationship only strengthening with time. She kept him grounded, reminded him to live rather than just fulfill duty, created a home that was sanctuary from the dangers he faced in his work. On their 10th wedding anniversary, they stood together in the same park where he had proposed, watching cherry blossoms fall through evening air while their children played nearby under Todo's enthusiastic supervision. "Are you happy?" Yuko asked, the same question she had posed on their wedding night. "I am more than happy," Yuji replied with the same quiet certainty he had shown then. "I am blessed. You have given me everything: love, family, purpose beyond strength, meaning that transcends any achievement. I cannot imagine existence without you, without this. Thank you, Yuko, for seeing me, for loving me, for building this beautiful life with me." "Thank you for being exactly who you are," she replied, squeezing his hand. "For never letting power change your gentle heart, for being not just the strongest, but the kindest, for giving me the family I dreamed of and the love I never thought I'd find. You're everything, Yuji. Everything." They kissed softly, comfortably, with the ease of 10 years together and the certainty of forever ahead. Their children's laughter rang through the park, Todo's booming voice trying and failing to maintain order, and the cherry blossoms fell like pink snow around them. This was Yuji Itadori's life now, not defined by battles fought or curses eliminated, not measured by strength or technique, but by these simple, perfect moments. By love and family and the quiet joy of watching his children grow in a world he had helped make safer. He had become not just the strongest, but the happiest. Not just a legendary sorcerer, but a devoted husband and father. Not just someone who helped others find proper deaths, but someone who had found proper life. Full, meaningful, joyful life that honored both his grandfather's final wish and the ancient legacy he carried unknowingly. The mark on his forehead had stopped pulsing years ago, its purpose fulfilled, the reincarnation cycle complete. Yoriichi Tsugikuni's soul had found through Yuji everything it had been denied: family, love, domestic happiness, the simple joys that strength alone could never provide. And Yuji, who had spent his early life questioning why he possessed such overwhelming abilities, finally understood the answer. Not to be the strongest, though he was. Not to eliminate the most dangerous threats, though he did. But to show that power and gentleness could coexist, that strength and love were not contradictory, that even those who carried the weight of protecting entire populations could find personal happiness. That was his true legacy, not the techniques he mastered or the battles he won, but the life he built, the family he protected and nurtured, the love he shared with Yuko, the children he raised to be kind and strong in equal measure. That was what mattered. That was what gave meaning to everything else. And as the sun set over Tokyo, painting the sky in shades of crimson and gold that matched his cursed energy, Yuji Itadori stood with his wife and watched their children play, knowing with absolute certainty that he had achieved everything that truly mattered. He was strong, yes. He was legendary, yes. He was one of the two most powerful sorcerers in the world, yes. But more importantly, more meaningfully, more completely, he was happy. And that made all the difference. Foreigners. 20 years after Sukuna's defeat. Yuji stood in the training grounds of Tokyo Jujutsu High, now 40 years old, but looking barely different than he had at 20. His cursed energy and unusual physiology slowing his aging significantly. His children had grown into accomplished adults. Ki was a renowned healer, working to revolutionize medical jujutsu. Tanjiro had become a teacher at the school, passing on his father's gentle strength to new generations, and the twins had chosen civilian lives, using their sensitivity to cursed energy to help in disaster response and civilian protection. Gojo approached, still wearing his blindfold, still grinning his characteristic grin. They had been partners for 2 decades now, the two strongest working together to maintain peace in a world that always teetered on the edge of supernatural chaos. Reminiscing? Gojo asked, settling beside his longtime friend and equal. Contemplating, Yuji replied with gentle amusement, considering how far we have traveled since that first day when you recruited me. How much has changed? How much has remained constant? You've changed more than you realize, Gojo observed. Not in power, that's been constant, as overwhelming at 40 as it was at 16, but in understanding, in wisdom. In that melancholic calm you've always carried now, being balanced by genuine contentment. You found what most people never achieve, true happiness alongside overwhelming responsibility. Because of Yuko, Yuji said softly. Because she saw me as more than just strength. Because she gave me family, purpose beyond duty, meaning that transcended combat. Everything good in my life traces back to her choosing to love me despite the complications. You give her too much credit, Gojo said. She gave you opportunity, yes. But you chose to take it, chose to be vulnerable, chose to build a life beyond being the strongest. That takes courage many powerful sorcerers never find. They let power define them completely. You let love define you alongside power. That's the difference between you and most people who achieve strength like ours. Yuji considered this quietly, his transparent world showing him the campus in all its complex beauty. Students training, teachers instructing, the next generation learning how to protect a world that would always need protecting. His son Tanjiro was among them, passing on lessons in his gentle, patient way that reminded Yuji of his own teaching style. Do you ever wonder what comes next? Yuji asked. We have protected this world for 20 years, eliminated countless threats, mentored generations of sorcerers, but the work never ends. The curses keep manifesting. The danger remains constant. Will we be doing this for the rest of our lives? Probably, Gojo said with characteristic bluntness. That's what being the strongest means, endless responsibility. But that doesn't mean it's only responsibility. You have your family, your happiness, your life outside this. That's what makes continuing possible, knowing that strength serves something beyond just more strength. Wise words, Yuji acknowledged. Though I sometimes wonder if I am truly living or merely existing well between missions. If there is more I should be doing, more meaning I should be finding. You're living, Gojo assured him. Trust me on that. I've watched people merely exist despite having everything. Power, recognition, safety. You're not one of them. You laugh with your children, love your wife, find joy in simple moments. That's living, Yuji. That's what strength should enable, not replace. Before Yuji could respond, his cursed energy sense detected a familiar presence approaching, Yuko, visiting campus to meet him for lunch as they did weekly when his missions allowed. Even after 20 years of marriage, seeing her still brought warmth to his heart, still made him grateful for the choice she had made all those years ago to see him as more than just a sorcerer. "Go," Gojo said with a knowing smile. "Your wife is here. Duty can wait for an hour. The world won't end if the strongest takes a lunch break." "Thank you, Gojo-san," Yuji said softly, standing with fluid grace. "For understanding, for supporting not just my duties but my life, for being not just a partner in combat but a genuine friend. That means more than I often express." "We're in this together," Gojo replied simply. "The two strongest facing an endless fight, finding meaning in what we protect rather than what we destroy. That's our legacy, Yuji. Not the battles we've won, but the lives we've enabled people to live. Never forget that." Yuji nodded, and then he was moving toward where Yuko waited, his heart lightening with each step. She smiled as he approached, that same genuine, warm smile that had captivated him 20 years ago and had never lost its power to move him. "Ready for lunch?" she asked, taking his hand as naturally as breathing. "Always," he replied, his formal speech softening into the more personal tone he used only with her and their children. "Where would you like to eat?" "Somewhere quiet," Yuko said, "where we can just be us for an hour. No sorcerers, no missions, no world-saving responsibilities, just Yuji and Yuko having lunch like normal people." I would like that very much," he agreed, and they walked together off campus into the city, blending into the crowds of people going about their ordinary lives. For that hour, Yuji wasn't the Flameblade sorcerer or one of the two strongest or the boy with transparent eyes or any other title that had accumulated over decades of service. He was just Yuji, husband, father, a man who had found happiness despite overwhelming power and endless responsibility, and that, more than any technique or achievement, was his truest victory. The final evening. 50 years after Sukuna's defeat, 70 years old but still looking remarkably vital due to his unusual physiology and cursed energy, Yuji sat on his home's porch with Yuko beside him, watching sunset paint the sky in familiar crimson and gold. Their children had children now, grandchildren who visited regularly, filling the house with the chaos and joy that only young ones could bring. Kii's daughter showed promise as a healer. Tanjiro's son was training at Tokyo Jujutsu High under his grandfather's watchful tutelage. The twins' children were still young, but already showing the gentle kindness that had defined their family for generations. Gojo was still alive, a fact that defied all predictions given how dangerous their work was, and still serving as partner and friend. Together, they had protected the world for half a century, becoming legends whose names would echo through Jujutsu history forever. But more importantly to Yuji, he had lived, truly lived, not just existed between missions. He had loved Yuko for 50 years, had raised 4 beautiful children, had watched grandchildren be born, had found meaning and joy and purpose that transcended any supernatural achievement. "Are you happy?" Yuko asked, the question she had posed countless times over their decades together. "I am more than happy," Yuji replied, the answer he had given every time, meaning it more with each repetition. "I am blessed. You gave me everything: love, family, life beyond duty. I cannot imagine what I would have become without you. Probably just strength without purpose, power without meaning. But you showed me what that strength should serve, what that power should protect. Thank you, Yuko. For everything." "Thank you for loving me," she replied, her head resting on his shoulder as it had so many times before. "For being gentle despite overwhelming strength, for being kind despite endless responsibility, for being exactly who you are. These 50 years have been the best of my life." They sat in comfortable silence as the sun set completely, stars emerging in patterns down Yuji's transparent world revealed as infinitely beautiful. The mark on his forehead, dormant for decades, pulsed one final time, gently, as if acknowledging something profound. And in that moment, Yuji understood with sudden clarity what he had never consciously known, that he carried within him more than just himself. That some ancient warrior's essence had lived through his existence, had experienced through him the family and love and happiness that had been denied in that original life. That his overwhelming abilities hadn't been random, but purpose, a soul seeking completion, finding it through reincarnation. He didn't know the name Yoriichi Tsugikuni, didn't know the full history of the sun-breathing style or its origins. But he felt profound gratitude toward whatever had granted him these abilities, whatever legacy he carried, because it had enabled everything good in his life. "I am ready," he whispered to the universe, to whatever cosmic force had orchestrated his existence. "Ready to rest when the time comes. I have lived fully. I have loved deeply. I have protected those who needed protecting and found happiness alongside responsibility. I have fulfilled whatever purpose I was born to serve, and I am content." Yuko squeezed his hand, understanding without needing explanation. They had decades yet, if fortune smiled, time to watch grandchildren grow, to continue their duties, to simply exist in each other's presence. But eventually, the end would come, as it came for everyone. And Yuji knew, with certainty born from his transparent world's perception, that he would face that end with peace. That his grandfather's final wish had been fulfilled 1,000 times over. He had helped countless people find proper deaths, but more importantly, he had found proper life. He would die surrounded by those he loved, at peace with his existence, grateful for every moment. That was all anyone could ask for. That was everything that mattered. The stars shone overhead, the cherry trees swayed gently in evening breeze, and Yuji Itadori, husband, father, grandfather, legendary sorcerer, gentle soul, sat with his beloved wife and felt nothing but profound gratitude for the life he had lived, for the love he had known, for the family he had built, for the purpose he had served, for everything. He was the strongest, yes, but more importantly, more meaningfully, more completely, he had been happy. And in the end, that was what mattered most. The cycle was complete. The reincarnation had fulfilled its purpose. The ancient warrior's soul could finally rest, having experienced through Yuji everything it had been denied. And Yuji himself, who had spent 70 years being gentle and strong in equal measure, could look back on his existence without regret, knowing he had lived exactly as he should, protecting others, loving deeply, finding meaning beyond mere power. This was his happy ending. This was completion. This was peace. And as the night deepened around them, Yuji and Yuko remained together, two souls who had found each other against all odds, who had built something beautiful in a dangerous world, who had proven that even the strongest could be happy if they chose to be. That was their legacy, not battles won or enemies defeated, but this simple truth, that love mattered more than strength, that family gave meaning to power, that happiness was possible, even for those who carried the weight of protecting entire populations. Yuji Itadori's story ended not with combat or sacrifice or dramatic finale, but with this quiet evening surrounded by love. The perfect conclusion for someone who had spent his entire existence showing that gentleness and strength were not contradictory. He was, and would always be remembered as, the strongest sorcerer of his generation. But to those who truly knew him, he was simply Yuji, kind, gentle, infinitely thoughtful, overwhelmingly powerful, and profoundly completely happy. And that made all the difference. The end. For Yoriichi Tsugikuni, whose soul found through reincarnation the family and happiness denied in his original existence. Through Yuji Itadori, you finally achieved the domestic joy you always deserved. Rest peacefully, knowing your legacy is not just strength, but the love and family that gave that strength meaning. For Yuji Itadori, who showed the world that being the strongest doesn't preclude being the gentlest, that overwhelming power can coexist with profound kindness, that even legendary sorcerers deserve personal happiness. Your happy ending was earned through decades of protecting others while never losing sight of what truly mattered. May all who read or hears this story remember, strength without purpose is merely violence, power without love is merely destruction. But strength used to protect, power channeled through compassion, abilities employed in service of family and happiness, that is what makes life meaningful. That is Yuji Itadori's true legacy.
Thank you for walking this journey with me. Your presence here means more than you know. If this story resonated with you, I would be grateful if you subscribed and continued forward with us. Everyone has their own strength, their own path. I hope you'll find yours alongside mine. Until we meet again, please take care.